In the morning, my wife texted me, "Plans changed. You're not coming on the cruise. My mother wants only her family." The next day, I canceled the payments, sold the house, and left town. When they came back, the notification sound was quiet. A single chime. The kind of sound you'd normally ignore while pouring your first cup of coffee on a Thursday morning. But I didn't ignore it. Maybe some part of me already knew. I was standing in our kitchen, the one I'd renovated with my own hands 2 summers ago, the one with the subway tiles Sarah said she had to have, the backsplash I installed on my knees over 3 weekends, and the phone was face down on the counter. I remember that detail because I'd been staring at it, at the back of the case, this dark blue thing with a little ring holder Sarah bought me for my birthday. "So you don't drop it," she'd said, kissing my cheek. I picked it up. The message was from Sarah, my wife of 7 years, the woman I'd met at a coffee shop during a rainstorm, the one who laughed at my terrible jokes, who cried during dog food commercials, who told me on our 3rd date that she wanted to build a life that felt like home. "Morning, babe. Plans changed. You're not coming on the cruise. My mother wants only her family there. Sorry. We leave tomorrow. I'll call you when we dock. Love you." I read it 3 times. Then I read it again. The coffee maker beeped behind me. The pot was full. I could smell the dark roast I'd bought on Sunday. The expensive kind Sarah liked. The one that came in the bag with the little valve you could press to smell the beans before you bought it. I'd stood in the grocery store aisle and pressed that valve like an idiot, like I was performing some ritual of being a good husband. I didn't pour the coffee. I just stood there, holding the phone, reading the message over and over until the words stopped making sense, until they became just shapes, just pixels on a screen. Plans changed. We'd been planning this cruise for 11 months. 11 months. I had a countdown app on my phone. Sarah and I had talked about it almost every night for the past 2 weeks. What excursions we'd book, whether we'd do the formal dinners or just eat at the buffet, which islands we were most excited about. I'd bought new swim trunks. I'd gotten a haircut yesterday specifically for the trip photos. There was a new suitcase in our bedroom, already half packed, sitting open on the chest at the foot of our bed. My mother wants only her family there. I looked around the kitchen, at the walls I'd painted, at the light fixture I'd installed, at the little herb garden by the window that I watered every morning, the basil and rosemary and thyme that Sarah used when she cooked. I looked at the refrigerator covered in magnets from places we'd visited together, Asheville, Savannah, that weekend in Charleston where it rained the entire time and we didn't care, only her family. I wasn't her family. 7 years of marriage, and I wasn't her family. The thing about betrayal, real betrayal, the kind that reaches into your chest and rearranges everything, is that it doesn't arrive like an explosion. It arrives like that text message, quiet, almost polite, a simple statement of fact delivered in the same tone you'd use to say you're out of the milk. I set the phone down on the counter. I walked to the bedroom. Sarah was still asleep, her dark hair spread across the pillow, one arm thrown over her head, in that way she always slept. She looked peaceful. Beautiful, even. I stood in the doorway and watched her breathe, watched her chest rise and fall, and I felt absolutely nothing. That's when I knew. It wasn't the text message that broke something in me. It was the fact that she'd sent it and then gone back to sleep. It was the casualness of it. The assumption that I would just accept it. That I would read those words, "You're not coming, you're not family," and then what? Go to work? Wish them a good trip? Water the plants while they were gone? I went back to the kitchen. I poured the coffee I didn't want into a mug I didn't want to drink from. I sat at the table where we'd eaten 1,000 meals together, where we'd paid bills and made plans and talked about maybe starting a family someday, and I opened my laptop. I didn't open it to check email or scroll through news. I opened it because I needed to know something. I needed to see something I'd been ignoring for a very long time. Our bank account was shared. We'd combined finances 3 years ago when we bought the house. Sarah managed most of it. She was better with numbers, she said. She liked organizing things. I'd been happy to let her handle it. That's what trust looked like, I thought. Letting someone else drive while you looked out the window. I logged in. The cruise was expensive. We'd talked about the price, had budgeted for it, had agreed it was worth it for the experience. $2,200 per person. I'd seen the confirmation email months ago when Sarah forwarded it to me with a string of excited emojis. I scrolled through the transaction history. There it was, March 15th, a charge to Paradise Cruise Lines. But not for 2 people, 4 people, $8,800. I stared at the number. I clicked on the transaction. I looked at the confirmation number. I opened a new tab and went to the cruise line website, entered the confirmation number, and waited while the page loaded. The reservation appeared. 4 passengers, 3 cabins. Sarah Martinez, Elena Martinez, Sarah's mother. Sofia Martinez, Sarah's sister. Carlos Martinez, Sarah's brother. I scrolled down to where my name should have been, where I thought it would be, where it had been in every conversation we'd had about this trip for almost a year. My name wasn't there. My name had never been there. She'd booked the cruise for her family in March, 9 months ago. She'd been planning this, planning to exclude me, planning to lie to me, planning to let me pack my suitcase and get my hair cut and buy new swim trunks and count down the days for 9 months. I sat back in the chair. The coffee was getting cold in front of me. Outside, I could hear birds. Our neighbor's dog was barking. Someone was mowing their lawn, even though it was barely 7 in the morning. The world was continuing, ordinary and oblivious, while I sat in my kitchen looking at a computer screen that had just rewritten my entire marriage. 9 months of lying. 9 months of letting me believe I was included. 9 months of watching me get excited about a trip I was never going to take. I heard footsteps in the hallway. Sarah appeared in the doorway, wearing one of my old t-shirts, rubbing her eyes. She smiled at me. That same smile I'd fallen in love with in a coffee shop 7 years ago. "Morning," she said. "Did you see my text?" I looked at her, really looked at her, tried to find the woman I married somewhere in the face of this stranger who could send that message and then smile at me like nothing had changed. "I saw it," I said. She poured herself coffee, added cream and sugar, stirred it with the little spoon we'd gotten as a wedding gift, part of a set from her aunt. "I know it's disappointing," she said, not looking at me. "But you understand, right? My mom's really traditional about family stuff, and it's her birthday cruise, so—" She trailed off, took a sip of coffee, leaned against the counter. "When did you book it?" I asked. "What?" "The cruise. When did you book it?" She shrugged. "I don't know. A while ago. Why?" "March 15th. She looked at me then. Something flickered in her eyes. Not guilt. Not exactly. More like annoyance that I was asking questions. "Okay. Yeah. Probably. So?" "So you've known for 9 months that I wasn't coming." She set her mug down. "It wasn't like that." "What was it like?" "It was, look, things evolved, okay? At first we were all going to go, and then Mom said she really wanted it to be just us, just her kids, and I thought you'd understand. You always understand." "You always understand." She said it like it was a compliment, like my understanding, my willingness to accept whatever she decided, whatever changed, whatever new realities she wanted to create, was something admirable, something she could count on. "I bought swim trunks," I said. "What?" "I bought new swim trunks for the cruise. They're in my suitcase upstairs." She sighed, actually sighed, like I was being difficult, like I was making a big deal out of nothing. "I'm sorry about the timing of the text. I should have told you earlier. But we're leaving tomorrow, and there's so much to do, and—" 9 months, Sarah. Stop saying that. You let me plan for this trip, get excited about it, talk about it with our friends, with my parents, with people at work, for 9 months. Jesus, it's just a cruise. She picked up her mug again, took another sip. You can come on the next one. We'll plan something. Just the two of us. Somewhere you want to go. I closed the laptop. I stood up. I walked past her, out of the kitchen, down the hallway to our bedroom. I could hear her following me. Where are you going? She asked. I didn't answer. I went to the closet, pulled out my duffel bag, not the new suitcase, but my old gym bag, and started putting clothes in it. Jeans, t-shirts, underwear, socks. What are you doing? Her voice had an edge now, confusion mixed with irritation. I'm leaving. What? Because of the cruise? Are you serious right now? I went to the bathroom, grabbed my toothbrush, my deodorant, my razor, tossed them in the bag. You're being ridiculous, Sarah said. She was standing in the doorway, arms crossed. It's one cruise, 1 week. You're going to throw a tantrum and leave because you can't come on one vacation? I zipped the bag, looked at her. I'm not your family, Sarah. You made that very clear. That's not what I meant, and you know it. Do I? My mother wanted. I don't care what your mother wanted. My voice was calm, steady. That surprised me. I thought I'd be yelling. I thought there'd be tears, anger, something dramatic. But I just felt empty, hollow, like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left just the shell. You had 9 months to tell me the truth. 9 months to say, hey, this trip is just going to be me and my siblings. 9 months to not let me make a fool of myself. You're overreacting. Probably. I picked up the duffel bag, walked past her. She grabbed my arm. Where are you going to go? I looked down at her hand on my arm. She let go. I don't know, I said. But I know I'm not staying here. I walked out of the bedroom, out of the house, to my car, threw the duffel in the back seat, started the engine. Sarah was standing in the doorway, still in my t-shirt, still holding her coffee, watching me with an expression I couldn't read and didn't want to. I backed out of the driveway. I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. Through our neighborhood, with its neat lawns and basketball hoops and American flags, past the grocery store where I'd smelled those coffee beans, past the gym where Sarah and I had memberships we never used, past the whole life we'd built together, the one I thought was real. I ended up at a coffee shop, not the one where we met, I couldn't handle that, but a different one, across town where nobody knew me. I ordered coffee I wouldn't drink, and sat at a table by the window and pulled out my phone. I had messages, 3 from Sarah. I didn't read them. I opened my banking app instead. I looked at the numbers, the mortgage payment that came out automatically every month, the shared account we used for bills, the savings account we'd built together, the one marked future in the app because Sarah thought it was cute to label it that way. The house was in both our names, but I'd put down the down payment, $40,000 I'd saved before we met, money from my grandmother's estate, money I'd been holding on to for something important. Buying our first house together had seemed important. Building our future had seemed important. That word again. Future. I looked around the coffee shop, at the college students with their laptops, at the woman in scrubs, probably just off a night shift, at the old man reading a newspaper. All these people living their lives, having their normal mornings, while my entire world had shifted 6 inches to the left, and nothing would ever line up right again. I wasn't family. After 7 years, I wasn't family. I opened a new browser tab on my phone. I typed in the name of our mortgage company. I logged in. I looked at the payment schedule, the balance, the terms. Then I opened my contacts. I scrolled to a name I hadn't called in almost 2 years. Marcus, my college roommate, real estate attorney, currently practicing in Seattle, last I heard. I hit call. He answered on the 3rd ring. Holy shit, is this really my boy Daniel? Did someone die? Not yet, I said. But I need a lawyer. What happened? I took a breath, looked out the window at the parking lot, at the cars coming and going, at the ordinary Tuesday morning traffic. My wife just uninvited me from our anniversary cruise, I said, and I need to know how to sell a house. There was a pause. Then Marcus said, I'm going to need you to start from the beginning. So I did. I told him everything. The text message, the bank account, the 9 months of lies, the not family comment. And as I talked, as I laid it all out in chronological order, I heard how it sounded, how calculated it was, how deliberate. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. You still love her? He finally asked. I thought about that, about Sarah sleeping peacefully after sending that text, about her shrugging in the kitchen, about her calling this a tantrum. I don't think I know her well enough to love her, I said. Good, Marcus said, because we've got work to do. Marcus talked for 47 minutes straight. I sat in that coffee shop with my untouched cup going cold, my phone pressed to my ear, and I listened while my college roommate, now a real estate attorney who specialized in what he called complex marital asset dissolution, explained exactly how thoroughly I'd been screwed. Okay, he said, and I could hear him typing, could picture him at his desk in Seattle with his 3 monitors and his standing desk and probably some expensive coffee that actually got drunk instead of abandoned. I'm looking at Washington state laws, but the principles are similar everywhere. You said you put down $40,000 on the house. Yes. From inheritance, not marital funds. My grandmother died 2 years before I met Sarah. The money was in a separate account. I transferred it for the down payment. Good, that's good. That's separate property. Do you have documentation, bank statements showing the transfer? I have everything. I keep files. Of course you do. I could hear the smile in his voice. Marcus had lived with me for 3 years in college. He knew about my filing system, my labeled boxes, my spreadsheets. He'd mocked me for it relentlessly back then. That's going to save your ass right now. What about the mortgage payments? Joint account. We both contribute. How much? $2,800 a month. And the house is worth? I pulled up Zillow on my phone, found our address, looked at the estimate. My stomach turned over. $390,000. Jesus, nice appreciation. We renovated. I did most of the work myself. Even better, sweat equity counts. What's the remaining mortgage balance? I switched apps, logged into the mortgage account. $210,000. I heard more typing. Okay, so you've got roughly $180,000 in equity. Your initial separate property contribution was $40,000. In a divorce, you'd be entitled to that $40,000 back off the top, then the remaining $140,000 gets split. You'd walk away with roughly $110,000. That's if we divorce. Yeah, Marcus said. About that. You planning to go back? I looked out the window again. A woman was loading groceries into her trunk. A kid was riding his bike in circles in the parking lot. Normal people doing normal things. No, I said. Then you're planning to divorce. I don't know what I'm planning. Daniel. His voice changed. Got serious. This was lawyer Marcus now, not college roommate Marcus. I need you to hear me very clearly. What your wife did, this isn't a communication issue. This isn't a rough patch. This is financial infidelity combined with emotional abuse. She spent $9,000 of marital funds on a vacation she explicitly excluded you from, lied to you for 9 months about it, and then informed you via text message the day before departure that you're not part of her family. I know. Do you? Because you sound way too calm about this. What do you want me to sound like? Angry. You should sound angry. I took a sip of the cold coffee. It tasted like dirt. I think I'm past angry. That's shock. You're in shock. Trust me, the anger is coming. And when it does, I need you to channel it into something productive. How long until they leave for the cruise? I checked the time on my phone. 24 hours. Flight leaves at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And they'll be gone for how long? 10 days. More typing. Okay, this is workable. This is actually... Daniel, I'm going to ask you something and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Okay. Do you want to hurt her back? I opened my mouth, closed it. The woman with the groceries had driven away. The kid was still riding in circles. I don't want to be cruel, I said finally. That's not what I asked. I know. Do you want justice? Do you want her to understand what she did? Do you want her to feel even a fraction of what you're feeling right now? I thought about Sarah standing in the kitchen doorway, sighing at me like I was being inconvenient. I thought about 9 months of lies. I thought about the swim trunks in my suitcase, and the haircut I'd gotten, and the countdown app on my phone. Yes, I said. Then I have a plan, but it's nuclear. Once you start, there's no going back. Your marriage will be over, permanently, do you understand? Tell me the plan. Marcus took a breath. You said, the house is in both your names? Yes. And the mortgage is current? Never missed a payment. Who has better credit? I do. Sarah had some issues in her 20s. Credit cards, student loans. We consolidated most of it after we got married. Paid it off. Her score is probably around 680. Mine 760. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do. While she's gone, while they're all gone on their little family cruise, you're going to sell the house. I laughed. Actually laughed. You can't sell a house in 10 days. You can if you price it right and find a cash buyer. I have contacts. Investors who buy properties sight unseen if the numbers work. You listed at 320. That's 70,000 under market value. Some investor jumps on it, closes in 7 days with cash, no inspection, as is, happens all the time. But Sarah has to sign. Does she? It's in both our names. It is, but you have power of attorney, don't you? I frowned. No. Why would I have power of attorney? Think. When you bought the house, when you closed. There were a lot of papers. I tried to remember. The closing had been 3 years ago. We'd sat at a big table in a title company office. Sarah had been annoyed because it took 2 hours and she'd had to miss a hair appointment. There had been stacks of papers. The agent kept sliding them across the table, pointing where to sign, where to initial. There might have been something, I said slowly, but I don't remember Sarah signing anything about power of attorney. She didn't have to. If you established POA for property matters during the purchase and she signed the mortgage documents, she likely authorized you to act on behalf of the marital estate for property transactions. It's standard boilerplate. Nobody reads it. Check your closing documents. They're at the house. Then you need to go back. I can't go back there. You have to. You need those documents. You need the deed. You need every piece of paper related to that house. Can you go when she's not there? I checked the time again. She's leaving for the airport at 4 a.m. tomorrow. I could go after that. No, go today, right now. Tell her you're picking up more clothes. Tell her you're getting your tools. Tell her whatever you need to tell her, but get those documents. Then bring them to a notary and to the title company. If the POA is there, if it's valid, you can sell without her signature. That can't be legal. It's absolutely legal. Ethically questionable in this context? Maybe. But legal? Yes. You'd be acting within the authority she granted you when she signed those papers. Is it something I'd recommend in a normal divorce? No, but this isn't normal. She committed fraud, Daniel. She spent marital funds on a vacation she explicitly excluded you from. A judge would crucify her for that. We're just accelerating the timeline. I rubbed my eyes. I'd been awake for 2 hours and felt like I'd lived a whole year. What happens after I sell? You take your half of the proceeds. Actually, you take your 40,000. in separate property first, then your half of the remaining equity, and you leave. You file for divorce in a different county if you can. You disappear. When she comes back from the cruise, the house is gone, you're gone, and she gets served with divorce papers. She'll fight it. Of course she'll fight it. But she'll lose. You have documentation of everything. The bank records showing the cruise charge, the proof that you weren't included, the history of joint mortgage payments that establish your contribution to the equity, and if you're really smart, you'll get something else while you're at the house. What? Evidence, text messages, emails, anything that shows this was planned. Anything that shows she deliberately excluded you. 9 months of planning means 9 months of communication. She talked to someone about this, her mother, her sister, someone. Find those conversations. My coffee was completely cold now. I pushed it away. This feels wrong. What she did feels wrong. What you're doing is protecting yourself. It feels like revenge. Good, Marcus said. It should, because it is. But it's also justice. And honestly, she's going to get away easy. You're not taking anything that isn't yours. You're not destroying her credit. You're not posting her business on social media. You're just extracting yourself from a toxic situation in the most efficient way possible. She'll get her half of the equity. She'll be fine. Will I be fine? He was quiet for a moment. Eventually. But not if you stay. Not if you try to work this out. People who do what she did don't change. They just get better at hiding it. I thought about that. About Sarah's face in the kitchen. About the way she'd shrugged. About, you always understand. I need to make some calls, I said. I'll send you a list of what you need. Documents, evidence, everything. I'll also send you contact information for 3 investors I know who operate in Washington. They're legitimate. They'll close fast. But Daniel? Yeah? Don't tell anyone what you're doing. Not your parents. Not your friends. Nobody. The fewer people who know, the better. And if Sarah calls you while she's gone, if she texts, you answer like everything is normal. You're sad about the cruise, but you understand. You're at home, watering the plants, missing her. Can you do that? Could I? Could I lie like she'd lied to me? Yes, I said. Good. Get those documents. Call me when you have them. We'll move fast. He hung up. I sat there for another 10 minutes, my phone in my hand, staring at nothing. Then I drove home. Sarah's car was gone when I pulled into the driveway. There was a note on the kitchen counter. Went to get my nails done, then picking up Mom from the airport. Her flight got in early. We'll probably grab lunch. Back around 4. Please don't be mad. I love you. I stared at the note, at the little heart she'd drawn next to her name, at the I love you that was supposed to make everything okay. I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. The house was quiet. I walked through it like I was seeing it for the first time. The living room with the built-in bookshelves I'd installed. The dining room with the light fixture we'd picked out together. The bathroom with the tile work I'd done over a long weekend while Sarah visited her mother. Our bedroom. The bed we'd shared for 7 years. The dresser with her jewelry box and my watch case. The closet where her suitcase sat open, half packed with summer dresses and swimsuits. I opened my laptop on the bed, logged into our shared cloud storage. Sarah kept everything there. Photos, documents, receipts. She was organized. I'd give her that. I found the folder marked House. Inside were all the closing documents from 3 years ago. I downloaded everything to a flash drive. Then I kept looking. I found another folder. Cruise 2025. I opened it. There were confirmation emails going back to March. Booking confirmations, excursion reservations, a spreadsheet breaking down costs, and text message screenshots. I opened the screenshots. They were conversations between Sarah and her sister, Sophia. March 10th. Sophia, Mom's being so annoying about this cruise. She wants it to be just us, no partners. Sarah, what do I tell Daniel? Sophia, just don't tell him yet. Wait until closer to the date. Sarah, that feels mean. Sophia, it's Mom's birthday. What do you want me to say? May 22. Sarah, I still haven't told him. Sophia, girl, you need to. Sarah, I know, I will. I just don't want to fight about it. Sophia, so tell him it's a girls' trip. Sarah, he knows it's not. Carlos is coming. Sophia, then tell him the truth. Sarah, I will, soon. August 3rd. Sophia, have you told Daniel yet? Sarah, no. Sophia, Sarah, I know. I'll tell him next week. Sophia, you're going to wait until the last minute, aren't you? Sarah, he'll understand. He always does. December 17th, yesterday. Sophia, so when are you telling him? Sarah, tomorrow morning. I'll send him a text. Sophia, a text? Sarah, it's easier. I don't want a big thing. Sophia, you're terrible. Sarah, he'll get over it. I sat on the bed, holding my laptop, reading those messages over and over. He'll get over it. 9 months. She'd known for 9 months. Had been planning to tell me via text for 9 months. Had been advised by her own sister to tell me the truth, and had avoided it because she didn't want a big thing. I downloaded the screenshots to the flash drive. Then I kept looking. I found more. Conversations with her mother, with her brother, group chats where they discussed the cruise, the itinerary, what they'd do at each port. Not once did anyone ask where I was. Not once did anyone suggest I should be included. I was a footnote, an inconvenience, a problem to be managed. I downloaded it all. Then I went to the filing cabinet in my office, found the folder with our tax returns, our marriage certificate, every major document from our life together. I took photos of everything with my phone. I looked at my watch, 2:30. Sarah wouldn't be back until 4. I went to our safe. I knew the combination, my birthday. Inside was her jewelry, our passports, the title to my car, and the deed to the house. I took the deed, photographed it, put it back. Then I saw something else, a folder I didn't recognize. I pulled it out, opened it. Inside were bank statements, not from our joint account, a different account, one at a bank we didn't use. The account was in Sarah's name only. The balance was $67,000. I looked through the statements, regular deposits, $500 here, $1,000 there. Transfers from our joint account, always small enough that I wouldn't notice, going back 2 years. She'd been skimming, taking money from our joint account, from the savings we were building together for our future, and hiding it in a secret account. I photographed every page. Then I put everything back exactly as I'd found it, closed the safe, locked it. I walked out of the house with my flash drive and my phone full of evidence. I didn't look back. I spent the rest of the afternoon at a different coffee shop, uploading everything to a secure cloud account Marcus had set up for me. Then I called the 3 investors he'd recommended. The second one bit. His name was Robert. He sounded about 60, spoke with the casual confidence of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. $320 for a house worth $390, he said. What's the catch? Divorce, I said. I need to move fast. Ah, say no more. I can close in 5 days if you have clean title. I do. POA in place? I'm verifying that tonight. If it is, then we're in business. Send me the address. I'll have my guy do a drive-by, pull comps, verify it's worth what you say. If it checks out, I'll have papers drawn up by tomorrow afternoon. That fast? Money moves fast when it wants to. Your wife going to contest this? She's out of the country. He laughed. Even better. Listen, I've been doing this 30 years. I've seen every kind of divorce there is. Whatever happened, I'm sorry. But you're doing the right thing. Rip the Band-Aid off. We talked for another 20 minutes. He explained the process, the timeline, what I needed to do. When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt since reading Sarah's text message that morning. I felt powerful, not happy, not satisfied, but powerful. Like I was taking control of something that had been controlling me. I called Marcus back. "I have everything," I said. "Documents, evidence, investor lined up. If the POA is valid, we can close by Monday." "Did you find anything else? Anything we can use?" I told him about the secret bank account. Marcus whistled. "Okay, that's fraud. Clear financial fraud. She's been stealing from the marital estate. That changes everything." "How?" "Because now you're not just selling the house and leaving. You're documenting a pattern of financial abuse. The cruise, the secret account, the systematic deception. Any judge would side with you. You might be entitled to more than half the equity, significantly more." "I don't want more. I just want out." "Take more anyway. She stole from you. You take it back. That's not revenge. That's restoration." I thought about that word, restoration, putting things back the way they should be. "Okay," I said. "Okay," Marcus repeated. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow morning, after she leaves, you go back to the house. You find that POA. You verify it's valid. Then you call the investor and you sign the papers. By the time she's sipping margaritas in the Caribbean, her house will be sold." "What do I do about her stuff?" "What do you mean?" "Her clothes, her furniture, her things." "Put it in storage, rent a unit, pack everything that's hers and store it. When she comes back, you give her the key and the divorce papers at the same time." It sounded so simple when he said it like that, so clean. "This is really happening," I said. "Yeah," Marcus said. "It is. How do you feel?" I looked around the coffee shop, at the barista making drinks, at the couple sharing a muffin, at the teenager doing homework. "I feel," I said slowly, "like I'm waking up from a dream I didn't know I was having." "That's good. That's the first step. The second step is making sure you never fall asleep again." We hung up. I ordered another coffee, actually drank this one, and I waited for tomorrow. I didn't sleep that night. I got a hotel room, nothing fancy, just a Holiday Inn off the highway, with thin walls and a view of the parking lot. And I lay on top of the covers, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling, listening to someone's television through the wall. Some late-night talk show. Canned laughter. Applause breaks. My phone sat on the nightstand, screen down. I'd turned off notifications. I didn't want to see if Sarah texted. Didn't want to know if she was wondering where I was, if she cared, if she'd even noticed I hadn't come home. At 3:47 a.m., I gave up on sleep, took a shower in the tiny bathroom with the weak water pressure in the shampoo bottles chained to the wall, got dressed, checked out. The clerk at the front desk looked half asleep himself. "Leaving early," he said. Not a question. "Yeah." "Everything okay with the room?" "Fine. Everything's fine." He processed my checkout without another word. I walked out into the pre-dawn darkness, into air that was cold enough to see my breath. The parking lot was empty except for my car and a semi-truck idling near the back fence. I sat in my car with the engine running, heat slowly filling the cabin, and I waited. At 4:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. I picked it up. A text from Sarah. "Heading to airport. House keys are in the bowl by the door. Don't forget to water the plants. Love you. I'll call when we land." I stared at the message, at the casual domesticity of it. Don't forget to water the plants. Like this was normal. Like she was going on a business trip and I was the dutiful husband keeping the home fires burning. I typed back, "Have a safe flight. I'll take care of everything." I watched the 3 dots appear as she typed. Then, "Thank you, babe. You're the best." I set the phone down. At 4:45 a.m., I drove back to our house. The street was dark, every window black except for a few porch lights. Our house looked exactly the same as it had yesterday. Same paint, same shutters, same mailbox I'd installed last summer because the old one was rusting. I parked in the driveway, used my key to let myself in. The house smelled like Sarah's perfume. She always sprayed too much when she was going somewhere. The scent hung in the air, thick and sweet, making my stomach turn. I didn't turn on any lights. I knew this house in the dark, every corner, every piece of furniture, every squeaky floorboard. I'd lived here for 3 years. I'd built parts of it with my own hands. I went straight to my office, turned on just the desk lamp, pulled out the flash drive with all the documents I'd downloaded yesterday. Then I started going through the closing papers, reading every page, every clause, every piece of fine print that I'd signed 3 years ago without really reading because we were excited and in love and building our future. I found it on page 47 of the mortgage documents, limited power of attorney for property transactions. I read it 3 times to make sure I understood. It was exactly what Marcus had described. Standard boilerplate. Sarah had granted me, and I had granted her, the authority to act on behalf of the marital estate for property transactions related to the mortgaged property. It was meant to allow one spouse to handle refinancing or routine property matters without requiring both signatures every time. But it also meant I could sell. I photographed the document with my phone, sent it to Marcus with a text. Found it. Is this valid? His response came 2 minutes later. The man never slept, apparently. That's it. That's your golden ticket. Take it to a notary this morning. Get it certified. Then send it to your investor. You can close by Monday, maybe sooner. I sat back in my chair, looked around my office, at the bookshelves I'd built, at the desk Sarah had bought me for our anniversary 2 years ago, at the framed photo of us on our wedding day, both smiling like we'd just won the lottery. I took the photo down, opened the back, removed the picture, left the empty frame on the desk. Then I got to work. The plan was simple, brutal maybe, but simple. By the time Sarah landed in Miami for her connecting flight to the cruise ship, I needed to have 1. The house listed and under contract. 2. Her belongings packed and in storage. 3. All joint accounts documented and divided. 4. Myself moved out completely. I had 72 hours, maybe less if I wanted to be thorough. I started with the investor. Robert answered on the first ring. You got the POA? Yes, I'm getting it notarized this morning. I can have it to you by noon. Perfect. I had my guy drive by yesterday. House looks good. Neighborhood solid. I'm in at 320. Cash. Can close Monday if the title's clean. It's clean. Outstanding. I'll have my attorney draw up the purchase agreement today. You sign. I wire the earnest money. We're off to the races. You got a title company you want to use? Whatever's fastest. I'll use mine. They know how to move. You'll need to vacate by closing, you understand that? I'll be out by Sunday. Good man, this is the right move. Trust me. We hung up. I looked at the time. 5:47 a.m. Notary offices wouldn't open until 9. That gave me 3 hours. I went to the garage, found the stack of moving boxes I'd saved from our last move, started carrying them inside. I began in our bedroom, opened Sarah's closet, stared at the neat rows of dresses, the shoes lined up like soldiers, the handbags on the top shelf still in their dust bags. I started packing, methodically, carefully. I folded each piece of clothing, wrapped each pair of shoes in tissue paper, placed each handbag in its own box. I didn't throw anything, didn't damage anything. I packed her belongings like I was preparing a museum exhibit. This wasn't about destruction. It was about separation. By 8 a.m., I'd filled 17 boxes with her clothes alone. I labeled each one in black marker. Sarah. Bedroom. Sarah. Closet. Sarah accessories. I moved to the bathroom, packed her makeup, her skincare products, her hair tools. Another 3 boxes. The living room was harder. We'd furnished it together. The couch we'd picked out after visiting 6 different stores. The coffee table I'd refinished. The rug we'd bought on a trip to Portland. I had to make choices. Anything she'd brought into the marriage, her grandmother's antique lamp, her collection of art books, the throw pillows she'd insisted on, went into boxes. Anything we'd bought together, I left. That would be handled in the divorce. My attorney could argue about the couch. By 9:15, I'd packed 28 boxes. My back was aching. My hands were covered in cardboard cuts, but I was making progress. I loaded the boxes into my car, drove to a storage facility 3 miles away, rented a 10 by 10 unit, made 4 trips back and forth, carrying boxes, stacking them neatly inside the climate-controlled space. At 10:30 a.m., I went to a UPS store that offered notary services. The notary was a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain. She looked at the power of attorney document, then at me. "This is for selling property?" she asked. "Yes." "And your spouse is aware?" I met her eyes. She signed the document. She granted me this authority. It wasn't a lie. She had signed it. 3 years ago. She just didn't remember. The notary stamped the document, had me sign in her presence, added her seal. "Good luck," she said, handing it back to me. I didn't know if she meant good luck with the sale or good luck with whatever situation had brought me to her counter at 10:30 on a Friday morning, looking like I hadn't slept in a week. "Thank you," I said. I scanned the notarized document at the UPS store, emailed it to Robert, called him. "Got it," he said. "Give me 2 hours. I'll have the purchase agreement ready. We're closing Monday at 2 p.m. That work for you?" "Perfect. You're going to need to sign a seller's disclosure. Basically says you're not aware of any major defects. Foundation solid, roof doesn't leak, no mold, no structural issues." I thought about the house I'd maintained for 3 years, the roof I'd had inspected last year, the foundation that was fine when we bought it and was fine now. Everything solid. "Great. I'll send you the paperwork this afternoon. You sign, send it back, and we're done. Easiest transaction you'll ever make." When I hung up, I sat in my car in the UPS parking lot, and I felt something crack open in my chest. Not sadness exactly, more like release. Like I'd been holding my breath for 3 years and finally remembered how to exhale. I drove back to the house, made more trips to storage. By 3 p.m., Sarah's entire existence had been removed from our home. The house looked different now, emptier, like a stage set after the performance. The furniture was still there. The kitchen still had dishes, but all the personal touches, the photos, the decorative pillows, the scented candles she loved, were gone. I walked through each room. The silence was profound. In the kitchen, I opened the cabinet where we kept the wine glasses, found the bottle of scotch I'd been saving for a special occasion, poured 2 fingers into a glass, raised it to the empty room. "To new beginnings," I said. Then I drank. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Just boarded. So excited. The ship is huge. I'll send pics when we set sail. Miss you already." I looked at the text, at the exclamation points, at the casual affection of someone who had no idea their entire life was being dismantled. I took a photo of the empty living room, the bare walls where her art had hung, the shelf where her books had been. I didn't send it. Instead, I typed, "Sounds amazing. Have the best time. You deserve it." She sent back a heart emoji. I poured another drink. At 4:47 p.m., Robert's attorney sent the purchase agreement. I read every word, every clause, every warranty and representation. It was standard, clean. The house would sell for $320,000. After paying off the mortgage, $210,000, and closing costs, roughly $8,000, I'd walk away with $102,000. My initial $40,000 down payment, plus my share of the equity. Sarah's half, roughly $50,000, would be held in escrow until the divorce was finalized. She'd get it eventually, but not until I was long gone. I signed the agreement electronically. Send it back. At 5:03 p.m., I got a confirmation email. Earnest money wired. Title search ordered. Closing scheduled for Monday, December 22nd, 2 p.m. I was selling my house. Our house. The place where we'd lived and loved and built what I thought was a future. And Sarah had no idea. She was on a cruise ship somewhere in the Atlantic, probably getting ready for the welcome dinner, picking out which dress to wear, laughing with her mother and sister and brother about how beautiful the ocean was. And I was erasing her from my life. I sat down on the couch, the one we'd picked out together, the one I was leaving behind, and I let myself feel it. All of it. The anger, the betrayal, the grief for the marriage I thought I had, the relief that it was ending, the terror of starting over, the strange, dark satisfaction of knowing that in 3 days she'd come home to nothing. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Is this Daniel Martinez? A woman's voice. Professional. Crisp. Yes. This is Jennifer Chen from Pacific Northwest Title Company. I'm handling your closing on Monday. I just wanted to reach out and make sure you have everything you need. Do you have any questions about the process? No. I think I'm clear. Wonderful. We'll need you to bring a valid photo ID to the closing. The buyer's attorney will bring the funds. You'll sign the deed over, and we'll disperse everything according to the purchase agreement. Should take about 30 minutes. That's it? That's it. Selling for cash makes everything simpler. Oh, one thing. You'll need to vacate the property by Monday morning. Will that be a problem? I looked around the empty house, at the boxes I still needed to pack with my own things, at the life I was leaving behind. Not a problem, I said. Perfect. See you Monday at 2. She hung up. I sat there for a long moment. Then I got up and started packing my own belongings. I worked through the night, boxing up my clothes, my books, my tools from the garage, the things that were undeniably mine, gifts from my parents, mementos from before the marriage, the laptop I'd bought with my own money, the things we'd bought together, the TV, the furniture, the kitchen appliances. I left. Let the lawyers fight over those. I didn't care about stuff anymore. I cared about freedom. By Saturday morning, I had everything that mattered to me packed into my car, in a U-Haul trailer I'd rented from the hardware store. I took one last walk through the house, the bedroom where we'd slept, the kitchen where we'd cooked together, the living room where we'd watch movies, the bathroom where I'd held her hair back when she was sick, the yard where we'd talked about maybe getting a dog someday. All of it was just rooms now, just spaces. The meaning had been stripped away, like paint from old wood. I locked the door behind me, put the keys in an envelope addressed to Robert, dropped it in the mailbox, and I drove away. I spent Saturday night at a different hotel, nicer this time. I figured I could afford it. I'd be getting a 6-figure check in 48 hours. I ordered room service, a steak I barely tasted, a bottle of wine I drank too fast. I called Marcus. It's done, I said. House is sold. Closing Monday. I'm out. How do you feel? I don't know. Numb, maybe. Like I'm watching this happen to someone else. That's normal. You're in survival mode. The feelings will come later. When? When you're safe. When you're far enough away. When your brain decides it's okay to process everything. What if I don't want to process it? What if I just want to forget? Marcus was quiet for a moment. You can't forget, but you can move forward, and that's what you're doing. You're choosing yourself. You're choosing honesty. You're choosing a life where someone can't lie to you for 9 months and expect you to just accept it. She's going to be so angry. She has no right to be angry. She did this. I know. But she won't see it that way. That's not your problem anymore. Let her be angry. Let her feel what you felt. Maybe it'll teach her something. I doubted that, but I didn't say it. We talked for another hour about logistics, about the divorce filing, About where I was planning to go. I didn't know yet. Away. That was all I knew. When we hung up, I turned on the TV, found some mindless action movie, fell asleep with the lights on and my phone in my hand, and I dreamed of empty houses and locked doors and ships sailing away. Sunday morning, I woke up to 17 text messages from Sarah. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding, and scrolled through them. OMG, the islands are so beautiful. We did a snorkeling excursion today. Mom is having the best time. I wish you could see this sunset, missing you. Okay, I know you're probably busy, but text me back. Just want to know you're okay. Did you water the plants? Daniel, are you mad at me? I know the cruise thing was weird, but you know, I love you, right? Please just text me back. You're scaring me, Daniel. This isn't funny. If you don't text me back in the next hour, I'm calling your mom. Daniel. The last one was from 20 minutes ago. I stared at the messages, at the progression from casual to concerned to panicked, at the way she'd gone from sharing vacation photos to demanding I respond. I thought about what Marcus had said. If she calls you while she's gone, if she texts, you answer like everything is normal. I typed, sorry, phone died, been busy with work stuff, house is fine, plants are watered, glad you're having fun, talk soon. Her response came in seconds. Oh, thank God, I was so worried. Why didn't you charge your phone? Forgot my charger at work, picked it up this morning. You need to be more responsible. What if there was an emergency? I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in my empty hotel room. What if there was an emergency? What if something happened? What if I needed her? The irony was suffocating. You're right, I typed. I'll be more careful. Good. I love you. Only 3 more days until we're back. 3 more days. In 3 more days, she'd land in Miami, drive home from the airport, pull into the driveway, and find nothing. No house, no husband, no life to come back to. Just a storage unit key and divorce papers. Can't wait, I typed. And I meant it. Monday morning arrived with rain. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. in the hotel room, my body somehow knowing this was the day even before my alarm went off. The curtains were still open from last night, and I could see the parking lot lights reflecting off puddles. The sky a dark gray that promised the rain wasn't going anywhere. I showered, shaved, put on the one suit I'd packed, navy blue, the one I wore to job interviews and funerals. It felt appropriate for both. I made coffee in the tiny hotel room coffee maker, the kind that produces something that's technically coffee but tastes like hot cardboard. Drank it anyway. My hands were shaking slightly. Adrenaline, probably. Or the fact that I hadn't eaten a real meal in 2 days. I checked my phone. Nothing from Sarah since last night. She'd sent a photo of herself and her mother at dinner, both of them smiling, cocktails in hand, the ocean visible through the restaurant windows behind them. The text had said, "Best vacation ever. So relaxed. Thank you for understanding, babe." I'd hearted the message, hadn't written anything back. Now, at 6:47 a.m. on the day I was selling our house without her knowledge, I scrolled through our text history, looked at the months and months of messages, the casual good mornings and good nights, the grocery lists and dinner plans, the I love yous scattered throughout like punctuation marks. I wanted to feel something, nostalgia maybe, or regret. But all I felt was tired. I packed up my hotel room, checked out, loaded the last of my things into my car. The U-Haul trailer was still attached, filled with boxes of my life. Everything I owned that mattered was now mobile. I had 7 hours until the closing. I drove to a diner off the highway, sat in a booth by the window, ordered pancakes I didn't want, and coffee I desperately needed. The waitress was maybe 60, with the kind of exhausted face that comes from decades of early shifts and difficult customers. "You look like you're heading somewhere," she said, pouring my coffee. "What makes you say that?" "Got that look about you, like you're between places." "That's pretty accurate," she smiled. "I've seen that look a lot. This place is right off the highway, People stop here when they're running toward something or away from something, sometimes both. Which one do you think I am? She studied me for a moment. Away, definitely away. You're good at this. 30 years behind a counter. You learn to read people. You want some advice? Sure. Don't look back. Whatever you're leaving, leave it. The rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason. She walked away before I could respond. I ate my pancakes slowly, read the news on my phone, watched the rain streak down the window, tried not to think about the fact that in a few hours, I'd sign away the house I'd lived in for 3 years, the house where I'd planned to raise kids, the house that was supposed to be our forever home. At 10:15 a.m., my lawyer called. Daniel, it's Richard. Just confirming we're all set for this afternoon. You're still good with 2 o'clock. Richard Moss was the attorney Marcus had recommended. 60-something, been practicing family law for 40 years, had the kind of calm, measured voice that made you feel like everything was going to be okay, even when it definitely wasn't. I'm good, I said. Excellent. Now, I've reviewed all the paperwork. The purchase agreement is solid. The buyer's attorney sent over the wire confirmation this morning. Funds are ready. Title company has cleared the search. We're green across the board. What about Sarah's half of the proceeds? That'll be held in escrow at the title company until the divorce is finalized. Standard procedure. She'll have access to it once the court issues the final decree. Could be 6 months. Could be a year, depending on how contested the divorce gets. And if she tries to stop the sale? Richard paused. She can't. Not legally. You have power of attorney. The sale is valid. She can be angry about it. She can claim you violated her trust, but unless she can prove you forged her signature on that POA, which you didn't, there's nothing she can do. The house will be sold before she even knows it happened. She lands Wednesday morning. She'll find out Wednesday afternoon. And by then, the deed will be recorded. The money will be dispersed. It'll be done. She can file a motion. She can demand an accounting, but she can't undo the sale. She's going to hate me. Probably, but she broke your trust first. She lied for 9 months. She planned a future with another man. You're just protecting yourself. I didn't know if that made it better or worse. One more thing, Richard said. The divorce petition. We're filing it Wednesday afternoon, correct? Yes. I'll have a process server waiting at your house Wednesday at 4 p.m. As soon as Sarah gets home and walks in that door, she'll be served. The petition cites irreconcilable differences and includes a full accounting of the marital assets, including the sale of the house. Jesus. I know it sounds harsh, but it's better this way. Clean break. No ambiguity. She'll know exactly where things stand. She's going to call me, text me, show up wherever I am. Block her number. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Not mutual friends, not family. Disappear for a while. Let me handle all the communication through legal channels. Trust me, it's easier. I thought about that. About just vanishing, starting over somewhere new where nobody knew me or Sarah or our failed marriage. It sounded like heaven. Okay, I said. I'll do that. Good man. See you at 2. At noon, I drove past the house. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see it one last time before it wasn't mine anymore. Maybe I was hoping for some kind of emotional closure. I parked across the street, engine idling, windshield wipers beating back the rain. The house looked the same as always. Same white siding, same black shutters, same red front door that Sarah had insisted on painting because she said it was welcoming. The lawn needed mowing, but I wasn't going to mow it. That was someone else's problem now. A for sale sign stood in the front yard. Robert had put it up on Sunday, just to make everything look legitimate. It said sold in big red letters across the top. I wondered what the neighbors thought, if they'd seen the sign, if they'd wondered why they hadn't seen Sarah and me in a few days, if they'd noticed the moving truck. Probably not. People don't pay that much attention. Everyone's too busy with their own lives. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of the house. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to remember. Maybe I wanted evidence that this place had been real, that our marriage had existed, that I hadn't imagined the last 3 years. Or maybe I just wanted to mark the moment, the before and after, the ending. I put the car in drive and pulled away, didn't look back. The title company was in a business park on the east side of town. Generic office building, generic lobby, generic conference room with a long table and uncomfortable chairs and motivational posters on the walls. I arrived at 1:45 p.m., 15 minutes early. Jennifer Chen, the title agent, was already there. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, wearing a pantsuit and carrying a leather portfolio stuffed with documents. "Mr. Martinez," she said. Shaking my hand. "Thank you for being prompt. The buyer should be here any minute. Can I get you some water? Coffee?" "Water's fine." She poured me a glass from a pitcher on the side table. I sat down, looked at the stack of papers in front of me, tab after tab marking where I'd need to sign. "How long have you lived in the house?" Jennifer asked, making conversation. 3 years. "Moving somewhere new?" "Yeah." "Exciting. Where to?" "Haven't decided yet." She smiled politely, but I could see the question in her eyes. Who sells their house without knowing where they're going next? Someone running, I thought. Someone who just needs out. At 1:58 p.m., Robert walked in with his attorney. Robert was exactly what I'd pictured. Mid-50s, polo shirt, khakis, the kind of guy who probably played golf on weekends and drove a Lexus. His attorney was younger, sharper, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than my car. "Daniel," Robert said, extending his hand. "Good to finally meet you in person. Sorry about the circumstances, but hey, one man's loss is another man's gain, right?" I shook his hand, didn't respond. We all sat down. Jennifer opened her portfolio. "Gentlemen, let's get started. This should be relatively straightforward. We're executing a cash sale of the property located at 1247 Maple Drive. Purchase price is $320,000. Mr. Martinez, you'll be signing the deed over to Mr. Blake's LLC. Mr. Blake, your attorney has confirmed the wire transfer." The attorney nodded. "Funds are ready. We can transfer as soon as the deed is signed and recorded." "Perfect. Mr. Martinez, I'll need to verify your identification first." I handed her my driver's license. She compared it to the name on the deed, nodded. "And I'll need to confirm you have power of attorney to execute this sale on behalf of the marital estate?" "Yes." I slid the notarized POA across the table. She reviewed it. "This appears to be in order, and your spouse is aware of this transaction?" I felt everyone's eyes on me. This was the moment where I could back out. Say no, actually she has no idea. Say this is a mistake. Say I need more time. But I thought about those text messages, about Marcus sitting in his office, telling me his wife had done the same thing, about Sarah on that cruise ship, laughing and drinking, and having the time of her life while I was here, signing away our shared past. "She granted me this authority when we purchased the property," I said. "Everything's legal." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. Jennifer didn't press. "All right then, let's begin." For the next 45 minutes, I signed my name over and over. Deed of sale, seller's disclosure, affidavit of title, tax documents, transfer declarations, page after page after page. My hand started to cramp. The pen felt too heavy. The room felt too small. Robert made small talk about his plans for the property, how he was going to renovate the kitchen, update the bathrooms, maybe add a deck out back, how he'd flip it in 6 months and make a $50,000 profit easy. I nodded along. Didn't tell him about the leak in the basement that only happened during heavy rains. Didn't mention that the water heater was on its last legs. Didn't say anything about the way the floors creaked in the hallway or how the kitchen sink drained slowly. Not my problem anymore. At 2:47 p.m., Jennifer slid the final document across the table. "This is the deed," she said. "Once you sign this, the property transfers to Mr. Blake's LLC. The deed will be recorded with the county this afternoon. After that, the sale is final." I picked up the pen, thought about Sarah, about the life we'd built in that house, about the morning I'd stood in that kitchen and asked her about the text messages and watched her lie to my face. I signed. Jennifer took the deed, stamped it, made copies. "Congratulations, Mr. Blake," she said. "You're now the proud owner of 1247 Maple Drive." Robert shook my hand again. "Pleasure doing business with you. And hey, I'm sorry about whatever you're going through. Divorce is rough. Been there myself. But you made the right call, getting your money out before things got messy." "Thanks," I said. "Wire transfer is processing now," the attorney said. "After the title company takes their fees and pays off the mortgage, Mr. Martinez, you should see your proceeds in your account by end of business today. We're looking at roughly $102,000. $102,000. It sounded like a lot. It sounded like nothing. It sounded like the price of my marriage. "Perfect," I said. We shook hands all around. Robert and his attorney left. Jennifer gathered up the documents. "Mr. Martinez," she said quietly, "I hope you're okay. I've been doing this for 10 years, and I can usually tell when someone's selling under duress. If you need to talk to anyone, I'm fine." "Okay. Well, good luck with everything." I walked out of the title company at 3:03 p.m. The rain had stopped. The sun was trying to break through the clouds. The parking lot was full of puddles reflecting the sky. I sat in my car and I waited for my phone to ping with the bank notification. At 3:47 p.m. it came. Deposit, $102,384. I stared at the number. Then I called Marcus. "It's done," I said. "The house? Sold, closed, deeds recorded, money's in my account. How do you feel? Free? Terrified? I don't know. All of the above. That's normal. You just took the biggest step. Everything else is going to feel easier after this." She lands Wednesday morning. The process server is going to be waiting at the house Wednesday afternoon. "And where are you going to be?" "Gone. I'm leaving tonight. I don't know where yet, but I'm leaving." Smart. Make it hard for her to find you. Give yourself time to think, to process, to figure out what's next. What if she files some kind of emergency motion? What if she claims I stole from her? She can't. You had legal authority. The sale was valid. Her attorney can file all the motions they want, but they won't stick. You'll have to split the proceeds eventually, yes, but that's what the escrow account is for. She'll get her half, just not on her timeline. I leaned my head back against the seat, closed my eyes. "Thank you," I said, "for everything, for pushing me, for making me see what needed to happen. You did this yourself. I just showed you the path. You walked it." I keep waiting to feel guilty. Do you? No, that's what scares me. I thought I'd feel terrible, but I just feel relieved. Good. That means you're healing. That means you're choosing yourself. We talked for a few more minutes about the divorce timeline, about what to expect when Sarah got served, about how to handle mutual friends and family. When we hung up, I sat there for a long time. Then I opened my Maps app, scrolled around aimlessly, looking at cities, states, places I'd never been: Portland, Seattle, Denver, Austin, Nashville. Anywhere but here. I picked Portland. I don't know why. Maybe because it was far. Maybe because I'd heard it rained a lot, and that felt appropriate. Maybe because starting over required picking a place, any place, and just going. I programmed the address of a hotel in downtown Portland into my GPS. 8 hours and 43 minutes. I could make it by midnight if I left now. I started the car, Pulled out of the parking lot, got on the highway heading north, and I didn't look back. I drove through the afternoon and into the evening. The sun says somewhere around Eugene. The highway stretched out ahead of me, headlights from other cars reflecting off the wet pavement, the U-Haul trailer rattling behind me. I stopped once for gas and coffee, stood in the fluorescent lighting of a truck stop surrounded by travelers and truckers, all of us in transit, all of us between places. The waitress at the diner had been right. I was running away, but maybe that was okay. Maybe sometimes running away was the same thing as running toward. Maybe leaving was how you found yourself. I got back on the road. At 9:47 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Just wanted to say goodnight. 2 more days and I'm home. Can't wait to see you. I have so much to tell you about this trip. I stared at the message, at the exclamation points, at the absolute obliviousness. In less than 48 hours, she'd come home to an empty house and divorce papers, and I'd be 400 miles away, starting a new life. I typed, "Sleep well. See you soon." Then I turned off my phone. I crossed into Oregon at 11:52 p.m. The highway sign said, "Welcome to Oregon." I thought about all the times Sarah and I had talked about taking a trip up the coast, seeing Portland, visiting Crater Lake, making memories we'd never done it. There was always next year, always later, always someday, but someday never comes. Not really. Life happens while you're making other plans, and then one day you wake up and realize the person you married isn't the person you thought they were. And suddenly you're driving through the night with everything you own in a trailer, headed toward a city you've never seen. I pulled into Portland at 12:37 a.m., found the hotel I'd booked, checked in, rode the elevator to the 8th floor, let myself into a room that looked exactly like every other hotel room I'd stayed in over the past week. I sat on the edge of the bed, looked out the window at the city lights, at the rain starting to fall again, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. The hard part was done. The house was sold. The money was secured. The divorce was filed. All that was left now was waiting for Sarah to find out. And beginning again. Tuesday passed in a blur of unpacking and wandering. I woke up in the Portland hotel room at 7:30 a.m., disoriented for a moment about where I was. The room was dark, heavy curtains blocking out the morning light, the sound of rain against the window. For a split second, I thought I was back home, that the last week had been a nightmare, that I'd roll over and find Sarah sleeping next to me. Then I remembered. I got up, showered, dressed in jeans and a sweater, went down to the hotel lobby and drank bitter coffee while scrolling through apartment listings on my phone. Portland was expensive. More expensive than I'd realized. A 1-bedroom in a decent neighborhood was running $1,800 a month. Studios weren't much better. And everyone wanted first month, last month, and a deposit. But I had money now, $100,000 sitting in my account. I could afford to be picky. I could afford to start over properly. I spent the morning looking at apartments, met with a realtor named Kimberly, who drove me around in her Prius, showing me places in the Pearl District, in Hawthorne, in Northeast Portland. We looked at 6 different units. They all blurred together. Hardwood floors, stainless steel appliances, exposed brick, the obligatory character that justified the inflated rent. "What brings you to Portland?" Kimberly asked as we drove between viewings. "Fresh start," I said. "Running from something or running to something?" I was getting tired of that question. "Both," I said. She nodded like she understood. "Portland's good for that. Lots of people come here to reinvent themselves. Just fair warning, it rains a lot. If you're from somewhere sunny, it can be an adjustment." I think I'm okay with rain. By early afternoon, I'd found a place. A 1-bedroom loft in the Pearl District. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Modern kitchen. Exposed ductwork. The kind of place Sarah would have hated because it was too industrial and not homey enough. Perfect. I'll take it, I told Kimberly. You don't want to think about it? Sleep on it? No, I want it. She looked at me for a moment, then smiled. All right then, let's draw up the paperwork. By 4 p.m., I'd signed a lease, transferred the deposits, and had keys to my new apartment. Move-in date, immediately. I drove the U-Haul to the building. Spent the next 3 hours carrying boxes up to the 3rd floor. The building had an elevator, but it was small and slow, so half the time I just took the stairs. My legs burned. My back ached. But it felt good. Productive. Like I was building something instead of tearing something down. By 7 p.m., I had everything inside. Boxes stacked against the walls. Furniture that needed assembling. A space that was completely, utterly mine. I ordered Thai food from a place down the street. Sat on the floor eating pad Thai out of the container, looking out at the Portland skyline as the sun set and the city lights came on. My phone was still off. I'd turned it off Monday night after that last text from Sarah and hadn't turned it back on. I didn't want to see the messages, didn't want to know if she was trying to reach me. Tomorrow was Wednesday. Tomorrow she'd land. Tomorrow she'd go home. Tomorrow everything would explode. I finished my food, threw away the container, stood at the window for a long time, watching the rain streak down the glass. Then I pulled out my phone, turned it on, watched as notification after notification poured in. 17 missed calls from Sarah, 32 text messages, 3 voicemails. I didn't listen to the voicemails, didn't read most of the texts, but I scrolled through enough to get the trajectory. Monday night. Good night, babe. Love you. Tuesday morning. Good morning. Last full day on the ship. So sad it's almost over. Tuesday afternoon. Haven't heard from you in a while. Everything okay? Tuesday evening. Daniel, seriously, you're worrying me. Can you please just text me back? Tuesday night. I tried calling. It went straight to voicemail. Did something happen? Are you okay? And then, an hour ago. If you don't answer me soon, I'm going to call the police and have them do a welfare check. This isn't funny anymore. I stared at that last message. Part of me, a small petty part, wanted to let her call the police. Wanted to imagine the cops showing up at our empty house, finding it vacant, realizing something was very wrong. Wanted her to panic. Wanted her to feel even a fraction of what I'd felt when I discovered her affair. But that was cruel. And I was trying not to be cruel. I typed, I'm fine. Phone was off. Everything's okay. Have a safe flight home tomorrow. I sent it before I could second-guess myself. 3 dots appeared immediately. Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you for 2 days. What is going on? Work stuff. Had to travel. I'm fine. Travel? Where? You didn't tell me you had a work trip. Last minute thing. I'll explain later. This is really weird, Daniel. You're being really weird. I almost laughed. I was being weird. That's what she was worried about. Sorry. Didn't mean to worry you. We'll talk when you get home. Okay. I land at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'll be home by noon. Will you be there? I thought about that. About whether I should be there. Whether I should face her. Explain myself. Watch her reaction in real time. But Marcus's voice echoed in my head. Disappear. Let the lawyers handle it. Don't put yourself through that. I'll be at work. But we'll talk soon. Promise. I love you. I stared at those 3 words. Words I'd said to her 1,000 times. Words that used to mean something. I didn't write them back. Instead, safe travels. I turned the phone off again. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on an air mattress in my empty apartment. I'd need to buy a real bed soon, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain, thinking about what was going to happen in less than 12 hours. Sarah would land in Miami, would take the shuttle to long-term parking, would drive home, probably listening to music, probably thinking about how nice it would be to sleep in her own bed, to see me, to tell me all about the cruise. She'd pull into the driveway, would see the sold sign, would stop, confused, thinking it was a mistake. Someone had put the sign in the wrong yard. She'd get out of the car, walk to the front door, try her key. It wouldn't work. Robert had already changed the locks. New owner's prerogative. She'd call me, text me, panic, and then she'd go around back, find the spare key we kept hidden under the fake rock by the patio. That key would work. Because Robert didn't know about it, she'd let herself in, and she'd find the house empty. Not completely empty. The furniture we'd bought together was still there. The couch, the TV, the dining table. But all her things would be gone. The photos, the decorations, the personal touches that made it ours. She'd walk through the rooms, calling my name, checking the bedroom, the closet, the bathroom. All empty. And then she'd see him, the process server, waiting in the driveway, because Richard had told him to wait until she was inside before serving her. Maximum impact. She'd take the envelope, open it, read the words, petition for dissolution of marriage, read about the house being sold, about the marital assets being divided, about irreconcilable differences and the breakdown of the marriage. And she'd understand. I tried to imagine her face, the confusion giving way to shock, giving way to anger. Tried to imagine what she'd do. Would she cry? Would she scream? Would she call her mother, her sister, her brother, telling them what I'd done? Probably all of the above. At 3 a.m., I got up, made instant coffee with the coffee maker I'd packed, sat by the window, and watched the city sleep. My phone was off. Would stay off. I didn't want to see her reaction in real time. Didn't want to read the angry texts or listen to the furious voicemails. Let her be angry. Let her process. Let her understand what it felt like to have your entire life upended without warning. Maybe it was cruel. Maybe it was justice. Maybe it was both. Wednesday morning, I forced myself to go out. I couldn't just sit in my apartment waiting, imagining. I'd drive myself crazy. So I went to a coffee shop, a little place in my new neighborhood with exposed brick and local art on the walls, and a barista with pink hair and arm tattoos who made me a cappuccino with a perfect leaf pattern in the foam. I sat by the window with my laptop, pretended to work, actually just refreshed my email over and over, waiting for something from Richard. At 11:47 a.m. it came. Subject, service completed, Daniel. Process server confirmed successful service at 11:32 a.m. Subject received petition and supporting documents. Server noted visible emotional distress, but no issues with service. All legal requirements met. We should expect a response within 30 days per state law. I recommend maintaining no contact. Let all communication flow through me. This will be easier for everyone. Call if you need anything. Richard. I read the email 3 times. Visible emotional distress. Of course she was distressed. She'd just come home from vacation to find out her husband had sold their house and filed for divorce. I tried to feel guilty. Still couldn't. My phone was still off, but I could imagine the messages, the calls, the texts to mutual friends asking if anyone had heard from me, the calls to my parents, to my brother, to anyone who might know where I'd gone. But I'd been careful. I hadn't told anyone where I was going. My parents thought I was on a work trip. My brother thought Sarah and I were fine. My friends, the few I had left after 3 years of marriage, didn't even know there was a problem. I was a ghost. At 12:15 p.m., I got an email notification, not from Richard, from my bank. Withdrawal attempt declined. Insufficient authority. I opened it, read the details. Someone had tried to withdraw money from our joint account, $10,000. The attempt was blocked because I'd gone to the bank on Sunday and converted the joint account to individual, removing Sarah's access. She was trying to take money, probably panicking, probably thinking if she could just access cash, she could figure this out, hire a lawyer, fight back. But I'd anticipated that. Marcus had told me to secure all joint assets immediately, close joint credit cards, remove her from bank accounts, make it clean. I'd done it all on Sunday, the day after the closing. She had no access to our money. Not yet. Not until the divorce was final and the court divided everything properly. Another email, this one from Richard. Received call from opposing counsel, attorney named Patricia Brennan. She's requesting emergency hearing for Friday regarding the house sale and asset division. She's claiming fraudulent transfer and violation of fiduciary duty. I'm drafting our response now. Don't worry. We're on solid legal ground. I called him immediately. Richard, what does this mean? It means Sarah lawyered up fast. Patricia Brennan is good, aggressive, expensive. She's going to fight hard. Can she undo the sale? No. The sale is final. The deed is recorded. The buyer has possession. What she can do is demand an accounting, argue you violated your fiduciary duty by selling without notice, and try to get you sanctioned by the court. Sanctioned? Financial penalties, maybe attorney's fees. But Daniel, you had legal authority. The POA was valid. You'll have to pay her half of the proceeds eventually, but you were going to do that anyway. She's just angry and lashing out. What do I need to do? Nothing. Stay where you are. Don't contact her. Let me handle Brennan. We'll go to the hearing Friday. I'll present our case. And the judge will see that everything was above board. It'll be fine. You sure? I'm sure. Trust me. I've been doing this a long time. We hung up. I sat in the coffee shop, my cappuccino gone cold, my laptop screen dark, and I realized this was really happening. Not the idea of divorce, not the plan, but the actual messy, complicated reality. Sarah was fighting back. Of course she was. She wasn't going to just accept this. And somewhere, in the back of my mind, I'd known that. I'd known it wouldn't be clean, that she'd hire a lawyer, that there would be hearings and arguments and months of legal wrangling. But knowing it intellectually and experiencing it emotionally were two different things. My phone was still off. I kept it that way. That afternoon, I went to IKEA. I needed furniture, a bed, a couch, a desk, all the basic necessities of setting up a life. I wandered through the showrooms, following the arrows on the floor, looking at staged living rooms and bedrooms and kitchens. Everything was clean and minimal and Swedish. Everything looked like a fresh start. I bought a bed frame, a mattress, a couch, a coffee table, a desk, sheets and towels and dishes and silverware. I spent $6,000 in 3 hours. The IKEA employees loaded everything into a delivery truck, said they could deliver Friday afternoon. I paid extra for assembly. Walking out of IKEA, I felt strangely accomplished, like I was building something, a new life, a new beginning, brick by Swedish brick. I drove back to my apartment, sat on the air mattress, ate leftover pad thai, and I thought about Sarah, about what she was doing right now. If she was at her mother's house, if she was crying, if she was angry, if she was talking to her lawyer, planning her strategy. I thought about Marcus, about whether he'd felt like this when his wife left, unmoored, guilty but not guilty, free but terrified. I thought about the future, about what I'd do now. I still had my job. Remote work made that easy. I could work from anywhere. Portland was as good as anywhere else, maybe better. Maybe this city, with its rain and its bridges and its coffee shops on every corner, could be the place where I figured out who I was without Sarah. At 8 p.m., I turned on my phone. The messages were immediate and overwhelming. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages, 9 voicemails. Most were from Sarah, but there were also messages from her mother, her sister, even a few from mutual friends who'd apparently been enlisted in the search. I scrolled through Sarah's messages, watched the evolution, confusion. Why is there a sold sign in our yard? Panic. Daniel, where are you? What is happening? Anger. How could you do this? How could you sell our house without telling me? Betrayal. You're a coward. You couldn't even face me. You had to sneak around and do this while I was gone. And finally, coldly, my lawyer says what you did was illegal. You're going to pay for this. I'll make sure you get nothing. I read them all. felt nothing. Then I opened one of the voicemails. Just one, just to hear her voice. Daniel, it's me. I know you're getting these messages. I know you're avoiding me. I need to understand. Did I do something? Was it something I said? We can fix this. Whatever it is, we can work through it. Please, just call me. Please. I love you. I don't understand what's happening, but I love you, and I want to fix this. Just please call me. Her voice broke at the end. She was crying. I closed the voicemail, opened my messages, typed one final text. Sarah, I know you're angry. I know you don't understand, but I found the messages. I know about him. I know you've been planning to leave me for 9 months, so I left first. My lawyer will handle everything from here. Please don't contact me again. I hit send, watched it deliver, watched the 3 dots appear as she started typing. Then I blocked her number, blocked her mother, her sister, the mutual friends, cut every tie. I sat there in my empty apartment, in my new city, in my new life, and I waited to feel something. Regret, guilt, sadness. But all I felt was tired. So tired. I lay down on the air mattress, pulled a blanket over myself, closed my eyes, and I slept. For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night without waking up, without nightmares, without that crushing weight on my chest. I slept like someone who'd finally put down a burden they'd been carrying too long. And when I woke up Thursday morning to rain against the windows and gray light filtering through the blinds, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. Thursday morning, I made a decision. I was going to stop hiding. Not from Sarah. I was done with her, done with that chapter, done with looking back. But from myself, from the life I needed to start building. I'd spent the last week running, reacting, surviving. Now, it was time to actually live. I got up early, made coffee in the French press I'd bought at Target yesterday, stood at my floor-to-ceiling windows, and watched Portland wake up. The rain had stopped overnight, leaving the city washed clean and gleaming. The streets were wet, reflecting the gray sky. People walked past on the sidewalk below, commuters with coffee cups, joggers with earbuds, a woman walking 3 dogs at once. Normal life. Ordinary people doing ordinary things. I wanted that. The ordinary, the simple, the uncomplicated. I showered, dressed in running clothes I hadn't worn in months, went downstairs and out into the morning air. And I ran. I hadn't run since before I found the messages. Hadn't had the energy, the motivation, the mental space for it. But now, pounding down the sidewalk, feeling my lungs burn and my legs protest, I felt something click back into place. My body remembered this, remembered the rhythm, remembered that movement could be meditation. I ran through the Pearl District, past coffee shops opening their doors, past boutiques with mannequins in the windows, past a farmer's market setting up early, vendors arranging flowers and vegetables under white tents. I ran until my thoughts quieted, until the endless loop of anxiety and second-guessing faded into just breath and footsteps and the sound of the city around me. When I got back to my apartment 45 minutes later, I felt more like myself than I had in months. I checked my phone. Still no calls or texts. Everyone I needed to block was blocked. But there was an email from Richard. Subject: Friday hearing. Details: Daniel, emergency hearing is set for Friday at 2 p.m. You don't need to be present, but I recommend it. Judges like to see both parties, and your presence shows you're not hiding, not ashamed of your actions. We're arguing that you acted within your legal rights via the POA, that all proceeds will be properly divided, and that Sarah's claim of fraudulent transfer is without merit. Brennan is going to paint you as vindictive and underhanded. We're going to paint you as someone protecting their assets in the face of infidelity. Character matters in these hearings. Let me know if you can make it. If not, I'll handle it solo. Richard. I sat with that for a moment. The idea of being in the same room as Sarah, of seeing her face, of watching her react to me being there. Part of me didn't want to. Wanted to let Richard handle it, wanted to stay in Portland. Wanted to avoid the confrontation, but another part. The part that had run 5 miles this morning, the part that was trying to reclaim some sense of agency, knew I should go. This was my life, my divorce, my decision. I should face it. I emailed back, "I'll be there. What time should I arrive?" His response was immediate. 1:30 p.m. Courthouse is downtown. Dress professionally. And Daniel, don't engage with Sarah. Don't talk to her. Don't respond if she talks to you. Stay calm. Stay quiet. Let me do the talking. Understood? I booked a flight. Portland to home, or what used to be home. Thursday evening, red eye. I'd land Friday morning, go to the hearing, fly back Friday night. In and out, clean and quick. I spent Thursday afternoon setting up my apartment. The IKEA delivery had been moved up. They had a cancellation and could come today instead of Friday. I said yes. 2 guys in blue shirts showed up at 1 p.m. with a truck full of boxes. Spent 3 hours assembling my bed, my couch, my desk. They were efficient and quiet, and when they left, my apartment looked like an actual place where someone lived instead of a storage unit with a view. I made the bed with the new sheets, gray and white, simple and clean. Arranged the couch facing the windows. Set up my desk in the corner with my laptop and a lamp. It wasn't home yet, but it was a start. I ordered pizza for dinner. Ate it sitting on my new couch, watching the sun set over Portland, turning the buildings gold and pink. My flight left at 11 p.m. I had time. I thought about calling my parents, telling them what was happening before they heard it from Sarah or through the grapevine. But I didn't know what to say. How to explain that I'd sold the house and filed for divorce while my wife was on a cruise ship. How to make them understand without sounding cruel or vindictive. So I didn't call. Not yet. After the hearing, maybe. After things settled. At 9 p.m., I packed a small bag, change of clothes, toiletries, the suit I'd worn to the closing. At 9:30, I drove to the airport. The red-eye was brutal. I couldn't sleep. The plane was half empty, but the seats were still cramped, and the air was still stale, and I couldn't shut off my brain. I kept thinking about the hearing, about what Sarah would say, about how she'd look at me. Would she cry? Would she yell? Would she sit there stone-faced and let her lawyer do the talking? I tried to prepare myself for all possibilities. Tried to build up the emotional armor I'd need to sit in that courtroom and face the woman I'd been married to for 3 years, the woman I'd loved, the woman who'd lied to me for 9 months. We landed at 6:47 a.m. I got a rental car, drove to a hotel near the courthouse, checked in, showered, put on my suit. At 11 a.m., I went to a diner and forced myself to eat breakfast. Eggs and toast and coffee that was better than airplane coffee, but not by much. My phone buzzed. An email from Richard. See you at 1:30. Conference room B. Don't be late. Another email. This one from my bank. Wire transfer received. 51,192.08. I stared at it. What was this? I opened the details. The transfer was from the escrow account at the title company. A note. Court order. Release of funds to Sarah Martinez per emergency motion. My stomach dropped. I called Richard immediately. Did you see the email? I said when he answered. I did. I was just about to call you. Brennan filed an emergency motion yesterday afternoon arguing that Sarah needed immediate access to her share of the house proceeds for living expenses. Judge granted it this morning. It's temporary. We'll argue against it at the hearing. But for now, she has her half. Half. That's $50,000. Half of my $100,000. Half of the marital proceeds, yes. Daniel, this was always going to happen. You were always going to split the house money. The only question was when. But I needed that money. I have expenses. You still have $50,000. That's plenty. And we'll make sure the final division is fair. But you can't expect to keep all the proceeds from a marital asset. That's not how this works. I sat down on the hotel bed, felt the weight of it settling over me. Sarah had $50,000 now. Enough to hire the best lawyer. Enough to fight me for months. Enough to make this messy. "Okay," I said. "Okay, what do I need to know about this hearing?" "Come ready to stay calm. Brennan is going to attack your character. She's going to say you acted in bad faith, that you hid the sale, that you violated your duty to your spouse. We're going to argue that you had legal authority, that you're not preventing Sarah from getting her share, and that her infidelity justifies your actions. Are we bringing up the affair? If we have to, I'd rather not. It makes you look vengeful, and family court judges don't like that. But if Brennan pushes hard enough, we'll introduce the text messages as evidence of why you felt the need to protect your assets. Do I have to testify? Probably not today. This is just a preliminary hearing, but be prepared to answer questions if the judge asks." "Understood." We hung up. I sat there for a long time, looking at my bank balance. $50,000 less than it had been this morning. It should have made me angry. Instead, it just made me tired. I arrived at the courthouse at 1:15 p.m. The building was downtown, old stone and marble columns, the kind of architecture meant to intimidate. I went through security, took the elevator to the 3rd floor, found conference room B. Richard was already there, navy suit, leather briefcase, reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed documents. "Daniel," he said, standing to shake my hand. "Good. You're early. How are you feeling?" "Nervous." "That's normal. Remember, stay calm. Don't react to anything Brennan or Sarah say. Let me handle it." "Okay." "The judge is Marilyn Hoffner. She's fair, but she doesn't tolerate games. She'll want facts, not emotions. That works in our favor." At 1:45, the door opened. Sarah walked in. I hadn't seen her in a week, 7 days. But it felt like a lifetime. She looked different, thinner maybe, or maybe just tired. She was wearing a black dress, professional and conservative. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup or very little. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. Behind her was her lawyer, Patricia Brennan, 50s, short gray hair, expensive suit, the kind of woman who looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast. Sarah's eyes met mine, and for a moment, everything stopped. I saw it all in her face. The hurt, the confusion, the anger, the betrayal. She opened her mouth like she was going to say something. Richard touched my arm. "Don't," he said quietly. I looked away. Sarah and Brennan sat on the opposite side of the conference table. There was maybe 6 feet between us. It felt like a canyon. At 2 p.m. exactly, Judge Hoffner entered. She was 60s, African-American with sharp eyes and an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse and every sob story and wasn't impressed by any of them. "Let's get started," she said, sitting down and opening a folder. "This is an emergent hearing regarding the Martinez divorce petition. Ms. Brennan, you filed the emergency motion. Let's hear your argument." Brennan stood. "Thank you, Your Honor. My client, Sarah Martinez, returned from a family vacation on Wednesday to discover that her husband had sold their marital home without her knowledge or consent while she was out of the country. She came home to an empty house, changed locks, and divorce papers. Mr. Martinez acted in secret, in bad faith, and in violation of his fiduciary duty to his spouse." "Your Honor," Richard stood, "Mr. Martinez acted entirely within his legal rights. He held power of attorney, granted by Mrs. Martinez herself when they purchased the property. The sale was legal and valid. All proceeds are being properly divided. After my client had to file an emergency motion to access her own money," Brennan interrupted, "Mr. Martinez attempted to cut her off financially, remove her from bank accounts, and leave her destitute." "That's not accurate." "Counselors," Judge Hoffner said sharply, "one at a time. Ms. Brennan, continue." "Your Honor, my client is asking the court to sanction Mr. Martinez for his actions. We're requesting attorney's fees, compensation for emotional distress, and a full accounting of all marital assets to ensure nothing else has been hidden or transferred." She sat down. Richard stood. "Your Honor, let's be clear about the facts. Mr. Martinez discovered evidence of his wife's ongoing affair approximately 2 weeks ago. Text messages indicating that Mrs. Martinez had been in a relationship with another man for 9 months and was planning to leave the marriage. Rather than confront her while she was on vacation, a vacation he paid for, I might add, he chose to protect his financial interests by selling a marital asset he had legal authority to sell." I saw Sarah flinch at the word affair. Brennan stood immediately. "Your Honor, Mr. Martinez has provided no evidence of any alleged affair. These are baseless accusations meant to—" "We have the text messages," Richard said calmly. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a folder. "Complete thread between Mrs. Martinez and a man named Marcus." "That's not—" Sarah started. "Mrs. Martinez," Judge Hoffner said sharply. "You'll have your chance to speak." Richard slid the folder across the table to the judge. The messages clearly indicate an ongoing romantic relationship and plans to leave the marriage. Mr. Martinez was protecting himself from a spouse who was planning to abandon him. Judge Hoffner opened the folder, read in silence for what felt like an eternity. The room was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Finally, she looked up, looked at Sarah. "Mrs. Martinez, do you deny these messages are yours?" Sarah's face had gone pale. "Your Honor, It's complicated. Marcus is a friend. We were just talking about—" "Yes or no? Are these your messages?" A long pause. Then quietly, "Yes." Judge Hoffner closed the folder, leaned back in her chair. "Here's what I see," she said. "Mr. Martinez discovered his wife was having an affair. He had legal authority to sell the house via power of attorney. He did so and is properly dividing the proceeds. While his timing was perhaps indelicate, his actions were legal." She looked at Brennan. "Your motion for sanctions is denied." "Your Honor, denied. However," she turned to Richard, "Mr. Martinez's actions, while legal, do demonstrate a breakdown of trust and communication. I'm ordering both parties to mediation before we proceed with the divorce. You'll work with a court-appointed mediator to divide assets fairly and establish terms." "Your Honor," Richard said, "my client would prefer to proceed directly to—" "I don't care what your client prefers. Mediation is mandatory in this jurisdiction for divorces involving significant assets. You'll both receive information about the mediator within 3 business days. This hearing is adjourned." She stood, walked out. We all sat there for a moment in stunned silence. Then Sarah turned to me. "Daniel." "Don't," I said, the first word I'd spoken to her in over a week. "Please, just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. I read the messages, Sarah. All of them." "You don't understand. Marcus and I I don't care." I stood up. "I really don't. You lied to me for 9 months. You made plans to leave. Whether you slept with him or not doesn't matter. You checked out of our marriage a long time ago. I just made it official. You sold our house." Her voice broke. "You took everything, and you didn't even give me a chance to what? Explain? Apologize? Tell me more lies?" I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No love, no hate, just emptiness. "You made your choice. I made mine." I walked out of the conference room. Richard followed me. "Daniel, wait. I'm done. I'm going back to Portland. Handle the mediation, handle the divorce, handle whatever she throws at us. I don't care anymore. I just want this over." "Understood. I'll be in touch." I left the courthouse, got in my rental car, drove to the airport, changed my flight to the earliest one available. At 6:30 p.m., I was back in the air, heading to Portland, heading to my new life. And I didn't look back. I landed in Portland at 9:43 p.m. The city was dark and wet, rain falling in that persistent northwest way that's more mist than drops. I picked up my car from long-term parking, drove through empty streets back to my apartment, and let myself into the space that was supposed to be my fresh start. It looked exactly as I'd left it. The IKEA furniture arranged just so, the boxes still stacked against the far wall, the windows reflecting my own tired face back at me. I dropped my bag by the door, didn't bother turning on lights, just walked to the window and stood there, watching the city breathe below me. Cars moving through intersections, a homeless person pushing a shopping cart, a couple walking arm in arm, sharing an umbrella. My phone buzzed, a text from Richard. "You did well today, get some rest. We'll talk Monday about a mediation strategy." I didn't respond. Another buzz, an email from my brother Chris. Subject: "What the hell is going on? Daniel, Sarah's sister, just called Mom. Said you sold the house and filed for divorce. Mom is freaking out. She's been trying to call you all day. What happened? Are you okay? Call me. Chris." I sat down on my couch, stared at the email. I'd been avoiding this, avoiding telling my family, avoiding the explanations and the questions and the inevitable taking of sides. But I couldn't avoid it forever. I called my mother. She answered on the first ring. "Daniel, oh my God, Daniel, are you okay? Where are you? What's happening?" "Hi, Mom. I'm fine." "Fine. Sarah's sister says you sold the house without telling her. Says you filed for divorce while she was on vacation. That can't be true. Tell me that's not true." I closed my eyes. "It's true." Silence. Then, "Why? What happened? You two seemed so happy." "We weren't happy. Or at least, she wasn't. She was having an affair, Mom. For 9 months. I found the messages. I couldn't stay." "An affair? Sarah? Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I have the text messages. I have proof. She admitted it in court today." "Court? You were in court?" Her voice was rising. "Daniel, this is insane. You need to slow down. You need to think about this. Marriage is hard. People make mistakes. You can work through this." "No, we can't." "Daniel, Mom, she lied to me for 9 months. She was planning to leave me. She just hadn't gotten around to it yet. I'm not going to sit around waiting for her to decide when it's convenient to end our marriage. I ended it first. By selling your house behind her back. That's cruel, Daniel. That's not like you. Maybe it is like me now. Maybe I'm tired of being the nice guy who gets walked all over." "Don't talk like that. You're upset. You're angry. I understand. But you can't make these kinds of decisions when you're emotional." "I made this decision very rationally, Mom. I talked to a lawyer. I had legal authority. I protected my assets. I did everything right." "Legal doesn't mean right. What about her? What about what this did to her? What about what she did to me?" My mother sighed, long and heavy. "Where are you?" "Portland." "Oregon?" "Yes." "When are you coming home?" "I am home." "This is home now." Another silence. Then quietly, "I don't understand you right now." "I know. I'm sorry, but this is what I need. I need space. I need to start over. I need to figure out who I am without her." "You're my son. That's who you are. And right now, my son is making decisions that scare me." "I'm okay, Mom, I promise. I'm actually better than I've been in months." "Call your father. He wants to talk to you." "I will. Later. I need some time." "Okay. But Daniel, whatever happened between you and Sarah, you're still a good person. Don't let this make you into someone you're not." We hung up. I sat there for a long time, phone in my hand, wondering if she was right. If I was becoming someone I wasn't. Someone hard and cold and capable of selling a house behind his wife's back. Or maybe I was just becoming someone who refused to be a victim. The weekend passed in a blur of routine and distraction. Saturday, I went to REI and bought hiking gear, boots, a rain jacket, a backpack. Portland was surrounded by mountains and forests and trails. I might as well use them. Sunday, I drove to the Columbia River Gorge, hiked to Multnomah Falls, stood at the base of the waterfall, feeling the spray on my face, surrounded by tourists taking selfies, and families with young kids and couples holding hands. I felt anonymous there, just another person on a trail. Nobody knew my story. Nobody knew I was recently separated, recently relocated, recently everything. It was freeing. I hiked for 4 hours, pushed myself until my legs burned and my lungs ached. Came back to my car exhausted and somehow lighter. On the drive back to Portland, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Daniel Martinez, a woman's voice. Young, professional. Yes, this is Amanda Chen from Portland Mediation Services. I've been assigned to your case by the court. I'm calling to schedule our first session. Right, the mandatory mediation Judge Hoffner had ordered. Okay, I said. I have openings this week. Thursday at 2 p.m. or Friday at 10 a.m. These sessions will be virtual. You'll receive a Zoom link. Both parties need to attend. Will either of those times work? Thursday at 2 p.m. is fine. Perfect. I'll send you the link via email. These sessions typically last 90 minutes. We'll discuss asset division, debt allocation, and any other outstanding issues related to the dissolution of your marriage. Will Sarah be on the call? Yes, both parties participate simultaneously. However, I'll facilitate the conversation to keep things productive. My job is to help you reach an agreement without going to trial. What if we can't agree? Then the case goes before a judge, who will make the decisions for you. But I'm very good at my job, Mr. Martinez. Most couples find a way to work things out. Most couples probably didn't have one person sell the house while the other was on vacation. A pause. I've read the case file. I'm aware of the unique circumstances. We'll address all of that Thursday. Try to come prepared to be reasonable. I'm always reasonable. I'm sure you are. See you Thursday. She hung up. I drove the rest of the way home thinking about what reasonable meant, about whether there was a reasonable way to divide a marriage that had ended in betrayal and retaliation, about whether Sarah and I could sit on a Zoom call and calmly discuss who got the coffee maker and who got the wedding china. Probably not. Monday, I actually worked for the first time in 2 weeks, logged into my company's systems, responded to emails, attended meetings. My boss, Jeremy, had been understanding about my personal situation. I'd kept the details vague, just said I was going through a separation and relocating. He'd approved remote work without question. But now I needed to actually produce, needed to prove I could still do my job even while my personal life was imploding. I spent 8 hours writing code, debugging, attending stand-ups, lost myself in the work, in the logic and structure and problems that had clear solutions. It felt good, normal, like maybe I could build a life here that wasn't just about running from my past. At lunch, I walked to a sandwich shop near my apartment, stood in line behind a woman with a toddler who kept trying to touch everything. The kid grabbed my coat. The mother apologized profusely. "It's fine," I said. "No harm done." She smiled, grateful. "Sorry. He's in a phase." I remember that phase. The words were out before I thought about them. "You have kids?" "No, I've seen the phase." She looked at me curiously, but didn't press. I got my sandwich, ate it at a table by the window, watched people walk by, wondered what my life would have looked like if Sarah and I had kids, if that would have made her stay, if that would have made me stay, if we would have been different people, better people, people capable of working through betrayal. Probably not. Kids don't fix broken marriages, they just complicate them. Tuesday, I got a call from Marcus, the real Marcus, my attorney friend who'd helped me through this nightmare. "Daniel," he said, "how are you holding up?" "I'm okay. Better than expected. I heard about the hearing. Richard called me. Said you handled it well. I didn't say much. Sometimes that's the best strategy. Listen, I wanted to check in, make sure you're doing okay mentally. This is a lot to process. I'm processing. Slowly. Have you talked to anyone? A therapist? No. You should. I'm serious. What you've been through, the betrayal, the divorce, the relocation, that's trauma. You need to process it with a professional. I'm fine, Marcus. You're functioning. That's not the same as fine. Trust me, I've been where you are. I thought I was fine too. Then 6 months later, I was having panic attacks in the grocery store. Don't be me. Get ahead of it. I thought about that. About whether he was right. About whether I was just pushing everything down, refusing to feel it, operating on autopilot. Okay, I said. I'll think about it. Don't think. Do. I'll send you some names. Therapists in Portland who specialize in divorce recovery. Call one. Make an appointment. You're very bossy. I'm very experienced, and I don't want you to suffer like I did. Promise me you'll call someone. I promise. Good. And Daniel, what you did, selling the house, protecting yourself, that took courage. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about it. My mother did. She thinks I'm cruel. Your mother wasn't married to Sarah. She doesn't know what you know. You did what you had to do. Sometimes I wonder if I did it because I had to, or because I wanted revenge. Does it matter? Doesn't it? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Look, I'm not going to tell you that revenge is wrong. I'm not going to say you should have taken the high road, because the high road is bullshit. The high road is what people tell you to take when they want you to accept being screwed over. You protected yourself. You made sure she couldn't take advantage of you. That's not revenge. That's survival. It felt like revenge. Maybe it was both. Maybe that's okay. You're human, Daniel. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to want her to hurt like you hurt. As long as you don't let that anger consume you, as long as you keep moving forward, you're going to be fine. We talked for another 20 minutes. About the mediation, about what to expect, about how to stay calm when facing Sarah again. When we hung up, I felt steadier. Like maybe I wasn't losing my mind. Like maybe my reactions were normal. My choices defensible. My future possible. Wednesday night, I couldn't sleep. The mediation was tomorrow. In less than 24 hours, I'd be on a Zoom call with Sarah, dividing up our life like it was a garage sale. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what I wanted to say. How I wanted to present myself. Whether I should apologize for the way I'd handled things or stand firm. At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep, got up, made coffee, sat at my desk, and started making a list. What I want from mediation. Fair division of remaining assets. My share of the bank accounts. My personal belongings that are still in storage. Closure. I stared at that last word. Closure. What did that even mean? How do you get closure from someone who lied to you for 9 months? How do you close a door that was blown off its hinges? I deleted it, added instead, a clean break that was more honest. Spent the rest of the night researching mediation strategies. How to stay calm, how to negotiate, how to avoid getting drawn into emotional arguments. One article said, remember, the person you're mediating with is not your enemy. They're someone you once loved who you're now separating from. Approach with compassion. I laughed out loud at that. Compassion for Sarah. For the woman who'd planned to leave me while still living in our house, still sleeping in our bed, still saying, I love you, every morning. No, I didn't have compassion for her, but I did have something else. Indifference. And maybe that was better. Thursday arrived gray and drizzling. I woke up at 8 a.m., showered, made breakfast, dressed in a button-down shirt, professional enough for a video call, casual enough not to look like I was trying too hard. At 1:45 p.m., I opened my laptop, clicked the Zoom link Amanda had sent. The waiting room appeared. Please wait for the host to let you in. I waited. At 1:58, the room opened. Amanda Chen appeared on screen first. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 30s, with short black hair and glasses and the kind of calm, measured energy of someone who'd mediated 1,000 divorces. "Good afternoon, Daniel," she said. "Thank you for being on time. Sarah should be joining us shortly." "Okay." "Before she arrives, let me explain how this will work. I'll facilitate the discussion. We'll go through each asset category: property, vehicles, bank accounts, personal belongings, debt. You'll each have a chance to state your position. Then we'll negotiate until we reach an agreement. My job is to keep things civil and productive. Understood? Yes. Good. If at any point things get heated, I'll call a break. We can take as many breaks as needed. The goal is to finish this in one session if possible, but we can schedule additional sessions if... A chime. Someone joining. Sarah's face appeared on screen. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back messily. No makeup. She was wearing a sweatshirt I recognized, the gray one from our trip to Seattle 2 years ago. My chest tightened. "Good afternoon, Sarah," Amanda said. "Thank you for joining us. We're just getting started." Sarah's eyes found mine through the screen. "Hi, Daniel." I nodded. Didn't trust myself to speak. "All right," Amanda said brightly, clearly sensing the tension. "Let's begin. We're here to discuss the division of marital assets in the Martinez divorce. I've reviewed the case file, including the sale of the marital home. The proceeds from that sale, $204,768 after paying off the mortgage and closing costs, have been split evenly. Sarah received $51,192 last week via emergency court order. Daniel, you retained $102,384, but you'll need to transfer an additional $51,000 to Sarah to make the split even. Can we agree to that?" "Wait," I said. "Why do I owe her more? She already got her half. She got half of what was released, but the full proceeds were $204,760. Half of that is $102,384. She's received $51,092. You received $102,384, so you need to transfer $51,092 to her to equalize the split." I did the math. She was right. "Fine," I said. "Sarah, do you agree to accept $51,092 as your share of the house proceeds?" "Yes," Sarah said quietly. "Excellent. Daniel, can you execute that transfer within 7 days?" "Yes." Amanda made notes. "Good. Now let's discuss vehicles. According to the file, you own 2 vehicles, a 2019 Honda Civic registered to Sarah and a 2021 Toyota Tacoma registered to Daniel. How would you like to divide these?" "I'll keep the Tacoma," I said. "She can keep the Civic." "Sarah?" "That's fine." "Good. Bank accounts. You had one joint checking account with a balance of $8,340 as of last Friday. How should we divide that?" 50-50, I said. "Agreed," Sarah said. "Excellent. Personal belongings. Daniel, I understand you place Sarah's belongings in a storage unit, is that correct?" "Yes, Unit 247 at Secure Store on Highway 99. I've been paying the monthly fee. I'll give her the key and transfer the account to her name." "Sarah, is that acceptable?" "Yes. But Daniel," she paused, looked directly at me through the screen. "Can we talk? Just for a minute. Not about assets. About everything else." Amanda looked between us. "That's not typically part of mediation, but if you both agreed to a brief personal conversation, I can step away." "No," I said, we don't need to talk." "Please," Sarah said, "just 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." "Sarah, you owe me that much. After what you did, after selling our house without telling me, you owe me 5 minutes." I felt the anger rise. I owe you nothing. You lied to me for 9 months. I never slept with him," she said. Her voice cracked. "I know you don't believe me, but I didn't. Marcus was just a friend, someone to talk to, Someone who understood. Understood what? How hard it was being married to me. How hard it was being married to someone who was never there, who worked all the time, who stopped seeing me, who stopped trying. The words hit like a physical blow. Amanda cleared her throat. I think we should take a break. 5 minutes. I'll step away. You two can talk or not talk. Your choice. Her screen went black, leaving just Sarah and me, staring at each other through pixels and distance and the wreckage of everything we'd been. For a long moment, neither of us spoke, just stared at each other through our screens. Sarah in what looked like her mother's living room. I recognized the floral wallpaper in the background. Me in my sparse Portland apartment with the gray sky visible through the windows behind me. Two people who used to share everything now, separated by 1,000 miles and a chasm of hurt. You look different, Sarah said finally. So do you. I've been staying with my mom. I didn't know where else to go. The house is gone. Our apartment is gone. You're gone. You could have stayed with Marcus. Her face crumpled. There is no Marcus. Not like you think. He's a therapist, Daniel. My therapist. Those messages you saw, they were therapy sessions. I was talking to him about our marriage, about how lonely I felt, about whether I should stay or leave. I felt the floor drop out from under me. What? Marcus isn't a person I was having an affair with. He's Dr. Marcus Stevenson, my therapist. I started seeing him 9 months ago because I was miserable and I didn't know what to do. That's bullshit. I read the messages. You talked about leaving me. You talked about a future with him. With myself. A future by myself. Marcus was helping me figure out if I had the courage to leave an unhappy marriage. She wiped her eyes. I should have just told you. Should have said I was unhappy. But I thought therapy would fix it. Thought I could fix myself and then we'd be okay. I sat back in my chair. My mind was racing, trying to reconcile what she was saying with what I'd read, with what I'd believed for 2 weeks. The messages, I said. You called him babe. You said you loved him. I never called him babe. I said thanks, babe, once. To you in a different text thread. You must have mixed them up, and I never said I loved him. I said I loved the idea of being honest with myself, of not pretending anymore. I pulled out my phone, scrolled back through the screenshots I'd taken, read them again, this time looking for what I might have missed, what I might have misunderstood. And there it was, the context I'd ignored in my rage, the nuance I'd refused to see. I don't know if I love him anymore. Not talking about Marcus, talking about me. I need to figure out what I want, not with another man, just what she wanted. Maybe it's time to be brave, not about starting a new relationship, about ending ours. Jesus, I whispered. You sold our house, Sarah said, her voice hardening. You packed up my entire life and put it in storage. You filed for divorce. You did all of that because you thought I was cheating, and you never even asked me. You never gave me a chance to explain. You were planning to leave. I was thinking about leaving. That's what therapy is for, thinking through hard decisions. I hadn't decided anything. I was trying to figure it out. And then I went on that cruise, thinking maybe some distance would help. Maybe I'd come home and see things clearly. Maybe we could still fix this. And instead, you came home to nothing. To worse than nothing. To betrayal. To you doing exactly what you accused me of, making plans behind my back, lying, sneaking around. I felt sick, actually physically sick. I started. You thought wrong. You assumed. You decided I was guilty and you punished me without ever talking to me. The messages seem so clear. To someone looking for evidence of an affair, maybe. But if you'd just asked me, if you'd said, hey, who's Marcus? Or, what's going on? I would have told you. I wanted to tell you. I was working up the courage. We sat in silence, the weight of it crushing. I'm sorry, I said. I fucked up. I completely fucked up. Yeah, you did. But Sarah, you were unhappy. For 9 months, you were unhappy enough to see a therapist, and I had no idea. What does that say about us? She looked away. It says we stopped talking, stopped seeing each other. You worked all the time. I felt invisible. And instead of telling you, I told a therapist. And instead of asking me what was wrong, you assumed the worst and burned everything down. I can't undo it. The house is sold. The divorce is filed. I can't. I know. I'm not asking you to undo it. I'm asking you to understand what you did, to admit that you hurt me just as much as you thought I hurt you. I do. I admit that. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me my home back. Sorry doesn't give me my marriage back. Did you want the marriage back? She thought about that, long and hard. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you did me a favor. Maybe we needed something this dramatic to finally end something that was already dying. So where does that leave us? Divorced, divided, done. She wiped her eyes again. I should hate you. Part of me does. But mostly, I just feel sad. We had something good once, and we both let it die. You through neglect, me through silence, and then you through revenge. It wasn't revenge, wasn't it? Even a little? I thought about that. About the satisfaction I'd felt signing the deed. About the dark pleasure of imagining her coming home to nothing. Maybe, I admitted, maybe it was. At least you're honest now. Amanda's face reappeared on screen. Are we ready to continue? Sarah and I looked at each other, some silent communication passing between us, an acknowledgement of everything that had been said, everything that couldn't be unsaid. We're ready, Sarah said. The rest of the mediation was mechanical. We divided the retirement accounts. I'd transfer $20,000 to her IRA to equalize our contributions. We divided the credit card debt. She'd take the Visa. I'd take the MasterCard. We divided the wedding gifts. She could have the china. I'd keep the silverware. Every decision was a small death. Every split, a reminder of what we'd built and what we were dismantling. At 4:47 p.m., Amanda said, I think that covers everything. I'll draft the mediation agreement and send it to both your attorneys. Once they review and you both sign, I'll file it with the court. The divorce should be finalized within 60 days. That's it? Sarah asked. That's it, unless there are any other issues to address. We both shook our heads. Then I'll let you both go. This was productive, despite the difficult circumstances. You should both be proud of how you handled this. I didn't feel proud. I felt hollowed out. Amanda disconnected. Sarah and I stayed on the call, neither of us moving to click leave meeting. Daniel, she said finally, I need to ask you something. Okay. When you found those messages, before you knew they were from my therapist, what did you feel? Angry, betrayed, like everything I thought was real was a lie. Did you feel relieved? The question caught me off guard. What? Did part of you feel relieved? Like maybe this was the excuse you needed to leave? Because you were unhappy too, you just didn't want to admit it? I started to deny it, to say no, I loved you, I wanted us to work. But that would be another lie. Yeah, I said quietly. Maybe I was relieved. Maybe I'd been looking for a way out too. I just didn't know it until I had one. She nodded, like she'd expected that answer. We were never going to make it, were we? Even without the misunderstanding, even without the house, we were already over. Probably. I wish we'd been brave enough to admit it before it came to this. Me too. Another long silence. I'm going to go, Sarah said. I can't do this anymore. Can't sit here and dissect our failure. Okay. Take care of yourself, Daniel. I mean that. You too. She reached for her mouse, paused. For what it's worth, I did love you. Once. Really loved you. I loved you too. Just not enough. No, not enough. She clicked Leave Meeting. Her screen went black. I sat there alone in my apartment staring at the empty Zoom window, and I felt something break open in my chest. Not anger this time. Not relief. Grief. Pure, uncomplicated grief for a marriage that had died so slowly we hadn't noticed until it was already a corpse. I called Marcus that night. My Marcus, not Sarah's therapist Marcus. The coincidence of the names felt like the universe's idea of a cruel joke. "How'd mediation go?" he asked. "It went. We divided everything. It's done." "Good. That's good. How are you feeling?" "Like an idiot. Like a vindictive, paranoid idiot." "What happened?" I told him everything. About Sarah's revelation, about the therapist named Marcus, about how I'd misread everything, assumed the worst, destroyed our marriage over a misunderstanding. When I finished, Marcus was quiet for a long time. "Say something," I said. "I'm thinking." "Think faster." "Okay, first, you're not an idiot. You made a mistake, a big one, but you made it because the messages seemed damning, and you didn't have all the context." I should have asked her. "Yes, you should have. But Daniel, here's the thing. She was planning to leave. Maybe not for another man, but she was planning to leave. She'd been unhappy for 9 months. 9 months she hid that from you. That's not nothing. She was trying to work through it in therapy, without telling you, without giving you a chance to work through it together. She was making unilateral decisions about your marriage just like you did. Hers just looked different. I hadn't thought of it that way. You're saying we're both guilty. I'm saying you're both human. You both handled an unhappy marriage badly. She through silence and secret therapy. You through assumptions and preemptive strikes. Neither of you is the villain here. You're just two people who didn't know how to talk to each other. That's generous. It's realistic. And Daniel, even knowing what you know now, that she wasn't cheating, would you have wanted to stay in a marriage where your wife was so unhappy she needed therapy just to figure out if she should leave you? No. Then maybe you still did the right thing. Maybe the method was wrong, but the outcome was right. You're both free now. You can both start over. She hates me. She'll get over it, eventually. And even if she doesn't, that's not your problem anymore. Your problem is figuring out what comes next. What does come next? Whatever you want. That's the beautiful thing about rock bottom. Once you're there, the only direction is up. Friday morning, I woke up and made a decision. I was going to stop running, stop hiding, stop defining myself by what I'd lost, and start building what I wanted. I made a list. What I want. 1. A job I care about. Current job is fine, but not inspiring. 2. Friends in Portland. Currently have 0. 3. A hobby that isn't just grief cardio. 4. To forgive myself. 5. To move forward, I stared at that list for a long time, especially number 4. Forgiving myself seemed impossible. I'd sold our house based on a misunderstanding. I'd punished Sarah for something she didn't do. I'd been cruel when I thought I was being justified. How do you forgive yourself for that? I thought about calling the therapist Marcus had recommended, the one who specialized in divorce recovery. Instead, I Googled therapists in Portland myself, found a practice called New Beginnings Counseling. The irony wasn't lost on me. I called, made an appointment for next Tuesday. "What are you hoping to work on?" the intake coordinator asked. "Everything," I said, "and I need to work on everything." "That's a good start," she said kindly. "We'll see you Tuesday." The weekend was the first one I didn't spend obsessing over the divorce. Saturday, I went to Powell's Books, the famous Portland bookstore that takes up an entire city block. Got lost in the stacks for 3 hours. Bought 7 books, including one called The Art of Starting Over, that seemed almost too on the nose, but I bought it anyway. Saturday night, I went to a bar, not to drink myself into oblivion, just to be around people. Sat at the bar, ordered a beer, watched a Blazers game on TV. The bartender, a woman about my age with dreadlocks and kind eyes, asked if I was new to Portland. Yeah, just moved here a few weeks ago. From where? California. Nice. What brings you to the Pacific Northwest? I thought about lying, making up a story about a job opportunity or a fresh start that didn't involve divorce and betrayal. But I was tired of lying, even by omission. Divorce, I said. I needed to get away. She nodded, didn't look shocked or pitying. Good choice. Portland's a good place to reinvent yourself. Half the people here are running from something. What are you running from? She smiled. Student loans and my mother's expectations. You? My own bad decisions. Aren't we all? She refilled my beer without asking. This one's on the house. Welcome to Portland. Sunday. I hiked again. Different trail this time. Forest Park, right in the city. 5 miles of trees and quiet and the occasional other hiker. I thought about Sarah. About whether she was okay. Whether she was staying with her mother or if she'd found her own place. Whether she hated me or just felt sad like she'd said. I thought about texting her, apologizing again, trying to explain, but what would I say? Sorry I destroyed your life over a misunderstanding. Sorry I was so convinced of your guilt that I didn't bother to ask questions. Some apologies are too little, too late. So I didn't text her, didn't reach out, let the silence stretch between us like a scar healing. Monday night, I got an email from Richard. Subject, mediation agreement. Daniel, attached is the final mediation agreement. Review it carefully. If everything looks correct, sign and return. Once Sarah signs as well, I'll file with the court. Divorce should be finalized by mid-February. You did well. This was much cleaner than most divorces I handle. You should be proud. Richard, I open the attachment. 15 pages of legalese outlining the division of our entire life together. Page 3. House proceeds split equally. Check. Page 5. Vehicles divided as agreed. Check. Page 7. Retirement accounts balanced. Check. Page 12. Personal property division. Check. Page 15. Final decree of dissolution to be entered upon court approval. I signed electronically. Sent it back. And just like that, I was officially unmarried. Or would be in 60 days. I sat at my desk, looking at the email confirmation, and I waited to feel something. Relief. Sadness. Regret. But all I felt was tired. Tired of thinking about Sarah. Tired of reliving the last few weeks. Tired of being the person who'd made such catastrophic assumptions. I wanted to be someone else. Someone who didn't carry this weight. Someone who could start fresh without the baggage. But that wasn't how it worked. You couldn't just decide to be different. You had to do the work, face the pain, process the trauma. That's what the therapist would say. Probably. I'd find out Tuesday. I closed my laptop, looked out at the Portland skyline, at the lights coming on as evening fell, at the city full of people with their own stories, their own pain, their own attempts at starting over. I was just one more story in a city full of them. And maybe that was okay. Maybe being ordinary, being just another divorced guy in a new city trying to figure his shit out, was exactly what I needed. No drama, no revenge, no grand gestures, just one foot in front of the other, one day at a time, forward. Tuesday arrived cold and bright. I woke up at 6 a.m., unable to sleep past the anxiety of my first therapy appointment. I'd never been to therapy before. Never saw the need. I was the guy who handled things, who worked through problems logically, who didn't need to pay someone $150 an hour to tell me my feelings were valid. But here I was, getting ready to do exactly that. The appointment was at 10 a.m. I had 4 hours to kill. I went for a run, pushed myself harder than usual, trying to outrun the nervous energy. Came back to my apartment sweating and breathless, showered. Made breakfast I couldn't eat. Checked my email obsessively. At 9:45, I got in my car and drove to the address I'd been given, a small office building in Northwest Portland, Brick exterior, green awning, a discreet sign that said, New Beginnings Counseling, second floor. I parked, sat in my car for 5 minutes, staring at the building. This felt like admitting defeat, like acknowledging I couldn't handle this on my own, like I was broken and needed fixing. But maybe I was broken. Maybe that was okay. I went inside. The waiting room was exactly what I expected. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, a water cooler in the corner, peaceful landscape paintings on the walls, a white noise machine humming quietly to mask the sound of whatever confessions were happening behind closed doors. I checked in with the receptionist, a young guy with gauges in his ears and a friendly smile. "First time?" he asked. "That obvious? You have the look. Don't worry. Dr. Reeves is great. You're in good hands." I sat down, picked up a magazine, put it down without opening it, checked my phone. No new messages, no emergencies, just me and my thoughts and the quiet hum of the white noise machine. At exactly 10 a.m., a door opened. A woman stepped out, mid-40s, African-American, wearing jeans and a cardigan, with short, natural hair and warm brown eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Daniel," she said. "That's me. I'm Dr. Reeves. Come on back." I followed her down a short hallway to a corner office, more soft lighting, a couch and 2 chairs arranged around a coffee table. Bookshelves lined with psychology texts and what looked like poetry collections. A window overlooking the street below. "Have a seat wherever you're comfortable," she said. I chose one of the chairs. She took the other. "So," she said, settling in with a notebook. "Tell me what brings you here." I'd rehearsed this moment, planned what I'd say, something casual and surface level, something that didn't make me sound completely insane. But sitting there, with her looking at me with those kind, patient eyes, everything I'd planned evaporated. I sold my house, while my wife was on vacation because I thought she was cheating on me. But she wasn't. She was just seeing a therapist. And now I'm divorced and living in a city where I don't know anyone, and I don't know if I'm a victim or a villain or just an idiot. It came out in one breath, one long, rambling confession. Dr. Reeves didn't react, didn't look shocked or judgmental, just nodded slightly and said, "Okay, that's a lot. Let's unpack it." For the next hour, I told her everything. About finding the messages, about Marcus, both Marcus the attorney and Marcus the therapist, whose name had caused all the confusion. About selling the house, about the court hearing, about the mediation where Sarah had finally told me the truth. Dr. Reeves listened, took occasional notes, asked clarifying questions but didn't interrupt. When I finally finished, she sat back in her chair. "That's quite a story," she said, "and I know, I sound crazy." "You don't sound crazy. You sound like someone who made decisions based on incomplete information and is now trying to make sense of the aftermath. I destroyed my marriage over a misunderstanding. Did you? Or did you end a marriage that was already dying, one where your wife was unhappy enough to seek therapy for 9 months without telling you? She was trying to work through it. Alone, without including you, without giving you a chance to work on it together." Dr. Reeves leaned forward slightly. "Daniel, I want you to consider something. You made assumptions about those messages. That was wrong. But Sarah made assumptions too, that she could figure out whether to stay or leave without involving you in that process, that she could work through marital problems in individual therapy instead of couples therapy. Both of you were operating in secret. Yours just looked more dramatic." I sat with that, turned it over in my mind. So we're both guilty. I don't think guilt is the right framework. I think you were both struggling in a marriage that wasn't working, and you both handled it poorly. That doesn't make either of you villains. It makes you human. I sold her house. You sold your house. A house you had legal authority to sell. Yes, the timing was harsh. Yes, you could have handled it differently. But you were protecting yourself from what you genuinely believed was betrayal. That's not evil. That's self-preservation. She came home to nothing. She came home to a storage unit full of her belongings and her share of the proceeds. She came home to the end of a marriage she'd been questioning for 9 months. You accelerated a process that was already in motion. I wanted to believe her, wanted to accept that I wasn't a monster, that my actions, while flawed, were understandable. How do I forgive myself? I asked. By understanding that forgiveness isn't about erasing what happened. It's about accepting it, learning from it, and choosing not to let it define you forever. You made mistakes. So did Sarah. The question now is, what are you going to do with this experience? I don't know. That's okay. You don't have to know yet. We'll figure it out together. She glanced at the clock on the wall. We're almost out of time for today, but before we finish, I want to give you some homework. Homework? I want you to write 2 letters. You don't have to send them. In fact, I'd prefer you didn't. But I want you to write them. One to Sarah, saying everything you wish you could say but can't. And one to yourself, from the perspective of someone who loves you unconditionally. Can you do that? I guess. Good. And Daniel, I'm glad you're here. It takes courage to sit in this chair, to admit you need help. That's not weakness. That's strength. I left the appointment feeling lighter, not fixed. Therapy didn't work that way, I knew that much. But unburdened. Like I'd set down a weight I'd been carrying and could finally breathe. I drove to a coffee shop, ordered a latte, opened my laptop, and I started writing. Letter to Sarah. Sarah, I don't know if you'll ever read this. I'm writing it because my therapist told me to, not because I think it will change anything, but here goes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for assuming the worst. I'm sorry for not asking you directly what was going on. I'm sorry for selling the house the way I did, for packing up your life, for serving you divorce papers after a vacation. That was cruel. I see that now. But I'm also angry. Angry that you were unhappy for 9 months and never told me. Angry that you were talking to a therapist about whether to leave me while still coming home every night and pretending everything was fine. Angry that we got to a place where neither of us could be honest. I don't think I'm the villain in this story, but I don't think I'm the hero either. I think we're 2 people who stopped seeing each other, who stopped trying, who let something good die because we were too scared, or too tired, or too proud to fight for it. I hope you're okay. I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for. I hope someday we can both look back on this and understand it was just 2 people doing the best they could with what they knew. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even sure I deserve it. I'm just saying, I see you. I see your pain. And I'm sorry I added to it. Daniel. I read it over, saved it in a folder labeled unsent. Then I started the second letter to myself, from someone who loves me unconditionally. This one was harder. I sat staring at the blank screen for 10 minutes. What would someone who loved me unconditionally say? What would my mother say if she understood everything? What would my best friend say if I'd had one? I started typing. Daniel, you're not a bad person. You made mistakes, big ones, but that doesn't define who you are. You're someone who got hurt and reacted from that hurt. You're someone who is trying to protect yourself. You're someone who's learning. You've been carrying this weight around like it's your identity, like you're the guy who sold his wife's house, or the guy who screwed up his marriage. But you're so much more than your worst moment. You're intelligent. You're capable. You're someone who works hard and cares deeply. You're someone who wanted a marriage that worked and was willing to try until you thought there was nothing left to try for. You deserve to start over. You deserve to build a life that makes you happy. You deserve to forgive yourself for being human. The divorce isn't your failure. It's the end of something that wasn't working. That's not failure. That's honesty. That's courage. Stop punishing yourself. Start building. You have so much ahead of you. Don't waste it looking backward. Love. You. I read it 3 times, felt my throat tighten. I didn't believe all of it. Not yet. But maybe someday I would. I saved that letter too, closed my laptop, and I sat in the coffee shop, surrounded by strangers living their lives, and I felt something shift. Something small, but significant. Hope. That afternoon, I decided to explore my new city properly. I'd been in Portland for 2 weeks, but I'd barely seen it beyond my apartment and the trails I'd hiked. I'd been too busy running from my past to actually live in my present. So I drove downtown, parked near the waterfront, walked along the Willamette River, watching the bridges span the water, watching people jog and bike and walk their dogs. Portland was beautiful, gray and wet and green and alive. So different from California. So different from the life I'd left behind. I stopped at a food cart pod, got Korean tacos, and ate them standing up, watching the city move around me. A guy about my age, early 30s, beard, flannel shirt, was eating at the next cart over. He caught my eye and nodded. "Good choice," he said, gesturing at my tacos. "That cart is the best." "Yeah? You a regular?" "I work nearby. Come here probably 3 times a week. You new to Portland?" "That obvious?" He grinned. "You have the look, like you're still figuring out if you like the rain." "Still figuring out a lot of things." "I'm Jake," he said, extending his hand. "Daniel." We shook, talked for a few minutes about nothing important, the weather, the food carts, the Blazers. Then Jake said, "You doing anything Thursday night? Some of us play trivia at a bar in the Pearl District, always looking for more team members." I almost said no, almost made an excuse. I wasn't ready for friends, for socializing, for pretending to be normal. But Dr. Reeves's voice echoed in my head. "What are you going to do with this experience?" "Sure," I said. "Yeah, I could do that." "Great." Jake pulled out his phone. "Give me your number. I'll text you the details." We exchanged numbers, made plans, said goodbye, and I walked back to my car feeling like maybe, just maybe, I could do this, could build a life here, could be someone other than the guy who'd imploded his marriage. Wednesday, I worked, actually focused on work for the first time in weeks, fixed bugs, wrote documentation, attended meetings without my mind wandering to Sarah or the divorce or everything I'd screwed up. My boss Jeremy pinged me on Slack. "Good work lately. Glad to have you back on track." "Thanks." "Feels good to be back. How's Portland treating you?" "Better than expected." "Good. Let me know if you need anything." It was a small thing, a tiny affirmation, but it mattered. Made me feel competent, capable, like I was more than just my personal disasters. Wednesday night, I went to the grocery store. Actually bought real food instead of takeout and frozen dinners. Planned meals, acted like an adult who had his life together. I made chicken and vegetables, ate at my desk while watching the sun set over the city. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake. Thursday, 7 p.m., the Hawthorne Public House. Trivia starts at 7:30. Team name is Quiz in My Pants. We're very mature. I smiled, texted back, "I'll be there." Another text came through. This one from Richard. "Sarah signed the mediation agreement. Everything's filed with the court. You should receive final divorce decree by February 10th. Congratulations, you're almost free." Free. The word should have made me happy. But instead, it just felt hollow. I wasn't free. Not really. I was still carrying the weight of what I'd done. Still processing. Still trying to understand who I was now that I wasn't married. But maybe that was okay. Maybe freedom wasn't about being weightless. Maybe it was about choosing which weights to carry. Thursday night, I almost didn't go to trivia. I stood in front of my closet at 6:30 p.m. trying to decide what to wear, and the anxiety hit. What if I had nothing to talk about? What if Jake's friends didn't like me? What if I was too damaged, too recent of a disaster, too obviously a mess? I could text Jake, make an excuse, say I was sick or busy or not feeling up to it, but I'd promised myself I'd try. Promised Dr. Reeves I'd do the work. Promised that letter to myself that I'd start building instead of just surviving. So I put on jeans and a sweater, got in my car, drove to the Hawthorne Public House. The bar was crowded. Loud music, louder conversations, the smell of beer and fried food. Jake was at a table near the back with 3 other people, 2 guys and a woman. "Daniel," Jake waved me over. "You made it. Everyone. This is Daniel. Daniel, this is Marcus, Jen, and Chris." I froze. Marcus? The guy, late 20s, glasses, friendly smile, extended his hand. "Yeah, I know. Super common name. Nice to meet you." Another Marcus, because apparently the universe thought that joke was still funny. I shook his hand, sat down, met the others. Marcus was a graphic designer. Jen was a nurse. Chris worked in tech like me. They were all friendly, welcoming, normal people, living normal lives. We ordered drinks, waited for trivia to start. "So what brings you to Portland?" Jen asked. Here it was, the question, the moment where I could lie or tell the truth or find some middle ground. "Fresh start," I said. "Just went through a divorce. Needed a change of scenery." I waited for the awkward silence, the uncomfortable shifting, the pity. But instead, Chris said, "Oh man, I feel you. Went through one 3 years ago. Portland was exactly what I needed. Good choice." "It gets easier," Jen added. "Takes time, but it gets easier." And just like that, it wasn't a thing. It was just part of my story. Not the whole story, just a chapter. Trivia started. We were terrible. Got maybe half the questions right, came in 8th out of 12 teams, but I laughed. Actually laughed. At Marcus's terrible guesses about European geography, at Jen's insistence that The Office started in 1997, at Jake's dramatic reading of the questions. For 2 hours, I wasn't the guy who'd sold his house or made catastrophic assumptions or destroyed his marriage. I was just Daniel, sitting in a bar, playing trivia with new friends, living. When the night ended, Jake walked me to my car. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah, really good actually, thanks for inviting me." "Of course. You should come next week too. We do this every Thursday. It's kind of our thing." "I will. Definitely." I drove home through the rainy Portland streets, and for the first time since I'd found those messages 3 weeks ago, I felt something approaching peace. Not happiness, not quite, but peace, acceptance, the sense that maybe I'd survive this after all. Friday morning, I had my second therapy session. "How was your week?" Dr. Reeves asked. "Better. I went to trivia, made some friends, wrote those letters you asked me to write." "Good. Do you want to talk about the letters?" "Not really, but I read them. That's something." "It is. What else?" "I've been thinking about what you said. About how Sarah and I were both operating in secret. About how we were both struggling. And I think you're right. I think we were doomed from the start, or at least from the moment we stopped being honest with each other. I just wish I'd handled it better. You handled it the only way you knew how at the time. That's all any of us can do. I want to do better. Be better. Then you will. Growth doesn't happen overnight. But you're already doing the work. That's what matters." We talked for the full hour, about patterns, about my tendency to solve problems with action instead of conversation, about learning to sit with uncertainty instead of always needing answers. When the session ended, Dr. Reeves said, "Same time next week?" "Yes, definitely." I left feeling steadier, more grounded, like maybe I really could rebuild from this. The divorce would be final in a few weeks. Sarah would move on, I would move on, and maybe that was okay. Maybe endings didn't have to be failures. Maybe they could just be endings. The last page of one chapter and the first blank page of another, waiting to be written. February 10th arrived without fanfare. I was at my desk, working through a particularly stubborn piece of code when the email came through. Subject line: Final Divorce Decree. Martinez v. Martinez. I stared at it for a long moment. My finger hovered over the mouse, cursor blinking on the unopened message. This was it. The official end. I clicked. The email from Richard was brief. Attached is your final decree. You are now legally divorced. All terms from the mediation agreement are incorporated. You're free to move forward. Congratulations, and best of luck. I opened the PDF, scanned the legal language until I found the relevant paragraph. It is hereby ordered and decreed that the marriage between Daniel Martinez and Sarah Martinez is dissolved, and the parties are restored to the status of unmarried persons. Unmarried. I was unmarried. I closed my laptop, stood up, walked to the window. Portland stretched out below me, gray and wet and beautiful. It was raining again. It was always raining, but I'd stopped minding. Had started to find comfort in the rhythm of it, the consistency. I waited to feel something. Relief, sadness, the weight lifting, the finality settling in, but I just felt quiet. The phone rang. My mother. Hi, Mom. The divorce is final, isn't it? I can always tell. Mother's intuition. Yeah, got the decree this morning. How are you feeling? I don't know. Empty, maybe. Or just tired. That's normal. Endings are exhausting. She paused. Your father wants to know when you're coming to visit. We haven't seen you since you moved. Soon. Maybe next month. Daniel, I know I was hard on you before, about how you handled things with Sarah. But I want you to know, I'm proud of you. My throat tightened. For what? For surviving. For starting over. For doing the hard work instead of just falling apart. That takes strength. I did fall apart. I'm still falling apart. But you're doing it while moving forward. That's the difference. That's what matters. We talked for another 10 minutes. About nothing important. About the weather and my father's garden and my niece's upcoming birthday. Normal things. Family things. When we hung up, I felt anchored. Connected to something larger than my own small disasters. I texted Jake. Trivia tonight. His response was immediate. Always. 7 p.m. Same place. We're bringing our A game tonight. I smiled. Texted back. We literally came in 8th last week. That was our A game. We're doomed. I went back to my code. Worked through the afternoon. At 6:30, I changed clothes and headed to the bar. The team was already there. Marcus waved me over, already 2 beers deep and gesticulating wildly about something. Daniel, tell them I'm right. Tell them Die Hard is absolutely a Christmas movie. It's February, I said, sitting down. Christmas is a state of mind. Jen rolled her eyes. He's been like this for 20 minutes. We ordered food, played trivia, lost spectacularly again, and somewhere between the terrible music round and the even worse sports questions, I realized something. I was building a life. Not the life I'd planned, not the marriage and the house and the future I'd imagined, but a life nonetheless, one with new friends and Thursday trivia and morning runs in the rain, one with therapy appointments and video calls with family and small moments of unexpected joy. The divorce decree was just a piece of paper. The real ending had happened weeks ago. This was the beginning.